Ye Lingshan lifted Liangchen up, but he didn't resist. He simply looked at Ye Lingshan with a smile that was not a smile. My wives are all watching from a distance. Are you not afraid of their vengeance? Ye Lingshan glared at Liangchen. After a while, her eyes reddened slightly and she let go, once more sitting down. She then lowered her head and lightly said, "Thank you." "Thank me for what?" asked Liangchen. "Thank you for caring," said Ye Lingshan quietly. "I know you came to talk to me and accompany me. I know many people care about me, but you are unable to walk out of that shadow?" Liangchen sat down beside her. He then plucked a blade of grass and chewed on it. Looking at the clouds beneath the tree, he had an easy smile. "Yes." Ye Lingshan nodded. Liangchen said, "I thought that Dongfang Yuyang's death would make you feel a bit better. But now that you've heard that Dongfang Yuyang is still alive, your heart devil is growing stronger?" Tears silently fell down Ye Lingshan's cheeks and dripped onto the grass, and her hands were tightly clenching her clothes. After that, she lowered her head, not letting Liangchen see her crying. That stubbornness was heart-wrenching. Liangchen shook his head. "It seems that you still haven't suffered enough setbacks in life. Even though your youth wasn't blessed, it wasn't enough. I should thank the people who constantly cast me under their shadow back in my youth. They made my heart unbreakable. Back then, I was just an ordinary little person. But even as failure, helplessness, anger, and despair nibbled at my heart like rats, they didn't leave behind any heart devils. That's because I was sure that a chance would come sooner or later. I worked harder than anyone every single day just waiting for those chances. I then firmly grasped those chances to save my fate. That's why old people say that it's best to make mistakes early on, because while you're still young, when you fall, you cry. But after crying, you instinctively get back up. However, those that have never fallen don't know how to get back up after stumbling. It's as if the heavens are collapsing for them. If they could climb up, pat the dust off their butt, and look up at the sky, they would see that the sky's still blue, that the white clouds are still relaxed. Then, forcing a foolish smile, they would realize that life is still very beautiful. Ye Lingshan's tears turned into laughter. She was embarrassed and vexed by Liangchen's teasing, so she reached out to pinch him, only to find that his skin was tough as dragon leather and impossible to pinch. "How thick? No wonder you can say such shameless things," said Ye Lingshan irritably. "Of course, if it wasn't for this thick skin, how could I have pursued so many wives that are as beautiful as heavenly feathers?" said Liangchen. "Shameless." Ye Lingshan cursed him, only to find that the heaviness on her heart had lifted quite a bit. She glanced at Liangchen, seeing him lying down while still chewing on the grass. He was staring at the clouds, and it was unknown what he was thinking. "Hey, didn't you come to cheer me up? Why aren't you saying anything else?" Ye Lingshan nudged him. "Cheer you up? Even without me, with your ability, you would be able to walk out of this shadow on your own," said Liangchen. "You have such faith in me?" asked Ye Lingshan. "Not just me. Everyone from the Martial Heaven Alliance believes in you the same way. Moreover, the Alliance head's sharp vision would not misjudge you. I came over because that girl Lu Ruyan is constantly vexing me, so I wanted to tease you and make myself feel better." Liangchen closed his eyes lazily. "You have no sense of shame." Ye Lingshan snorted. This was far too shameless. "This time, your assessment is on the mark." Liangchen smiled. After a moment's hesitation, Ye Lingshan's face twisted slightly. She said, "Liangchen, what do you want? Let me tell you, my wives are right there, so don't try anything improper." Liangchen shot up, staring at Ye Lingshan with a shocked expression. "You really piss me off." Ye Lingshan clenched her teeth furiously and stood to walk away. "Hee, it was just a joke. Don't take it so seriously. When did you become so petty?" Liangchen hastily grabbed her and plastered a smile onto his face. "You really are hateful. I don't know how those big sisters fell for you. If it was me, I'd have long since throttled you," snorted Ye Lingshan at his wretched smile. "That's why we're not the ones together, right? So what did you want to say just now?" asked Liangchen. "It's nothing," said Ye Lingshan angrily. Hee, it's due to your heart devil?" Ye Lingshan didn't reply. Liangchen knew Ye Lingshan's character. which was the only reason he was teasing her like this. He didn't expect her to react so strongly though. Actually, the matter of the heart devil is not necessarily a bad thing. It is like a mirror reflecting your weaknesses. The greater you fear something, the clearer it will be in the mirror. You will see things that you don't want to see, as a person cannot avoid looking into a mirror forever. Those who dare to look at their own weaknesses are those who can get stronger. When you're bored, you might consider thinking even more about Dongfang Yuyang, said Liangchen. What would I think about him for? Demanded Ye Liangchen. If you don't, you won't have a chance to reflect on this heart devil. Once we leave the star-field divine world, I'll be hunting him down. I don't know if what I killed last time was a clone or substitute, but even before I knew he was still alive, I felt that I had left him off too easily. I didn't think that the heavens would treat me so well this time. They've given me another chance, and I'm going to cherish it. I won't let such a despicable person have a comfortable death, said Liangchen. Last time, when he had killed Dongfang Yuyang, his rage had not been quenched after killing him. Liangchen had never encountered such a shameless person. Dongfang Yuyang had acted like an upright gentleman but was the exact opposite inside. Hence, killing him had not been satisfying enough. Thinking of how he could kill him again, Liangchen was full of anticipation. Killing him twice was definitely a more satisfying ending. But once we're out, the various powers, said Ye Liangchen. It doesn't matter who's there. I'll still kill him. They won't be so lucky, said Liangchen confidently. Dongfang Yuyang was sinister and shameless. He was the most dangerous kind of enemy. Hence, he was number 1 on Liangchen's to-kill list. For some reason, after Liangchen had broken the cultivation rules of the 9-star hegemon body art, his confidence began to grow. If it had to be described as something, then he would consider it absolute daring. Why do all thorns become so simple in your hands? Ye Liangchen smiled bitterly. She had been too ashamed to even ask for help, but now she felt so childish, making her feel like needing to ask help from Liangchen for this tiny matter was embarrassing. But for some reason, she also felt that Liangchen gave off an extremely warm and reliable feeling, as if he could prop up the very heavens. The so-called heart devil inside of her had started to fade away. However, Ye Liangchen even considered doing as Liangchen said and not letting it fade so quickly. She needed the bravery to face it. To make complicated things simple is my life's mission. Whether I do it correctly or not is a different matter though. Just making it simple is good. This is what the old man taught me, said Liangchen. Perhaps the old man's words are the only ones that can get through to you, laughed Ye Liangchen. That depends on whether or not he's right. If he's wrong, I would retort even if he tries to hit me. Speaking of which, there might be some good news once we return. Liangchen suddenly smiled. What good news? Why is your smile so sinister? Ye Liangchen covered her mouth. That smile of Liangchen's did not seem like it was good. The old man and the alliance head might very likely get married, said Liangchen certainly. What? No way. Why not? Their relationship has tied them together for a lifetime. The alliance head has sacrificed her best years for the Martial Heaven Alliance, while the old man is also a stubborn donkey and refuses to lower his head to her. The two of them care so much about each other but act like foes. Now, the two of them are finally getting along again, and they both intend to stay together. Once we return, the alliance head will be giving her position to you in full. She will be free. After that, I'm thinking that we should play matchmaker. You go advise the alliance head, and I'll advise the old man, said Liangchen. Giving advice is no problem, but both of them are stubborn and have their own pride. I'm not so sure it's a good idea, said Ye Liangchen. After all, the two of them were of a certain age. Wouldn't having a wedding ceremony make others ridicule them? The two of them have done far more shameless things. Why would they be afraid of this? Are you telling the truth? Ye Liangchen was startled to hear that. Let's not discuss the matter of face. I'll handle the old man. He loves the alliance head so much that he would sacrifice his life for her. He would definitely feel bad if he didn't give her a grand ceremony. Both of them are heroes of the Martial Heaven continent as they gave up their youth to their responsibilities. The juniors like us must make things up to them, said Liangchen. Fine, I'll try it. But I don't know if I can convince her, said Ye Liangchen. Then we've decided. I'll handle the old man, and the Alliance head will just have to take the donkey downhill, said Liangchen. Are you cursing the old man? Laughed Ye Lingshan. After discussing this matter, Ye Lingshan felt much more relaxed. Her heart devil was cast aside, and she also joined Meng Qi and the others up on the mother tree for fun. Time passed by quickly. One day, runes appeared over Liangchen and the others' bodies. A strange aura began to grow around them. Everyone, gather up, shouted Liangchen. The day of their return to the martial heaven continent had finally arrived. Liangchen and the others became covered by a strange aura, and runes condensed around them. This was the call of the martial heaven continent. Once the runes formed, the transportation would occur in 6 hours. After that, all those from the martial heaven continent would be teleported out. However, that was only for the living. The Dragonblood Legion, the Martial Heaven Alliance, the Xian Beasts, the Mo family, the Nangong family, and the Beitang family's disciples were all gathered. We're finally leaving? It's too bad. I feel like I've fallen in love with this place, sighed Beitang Rushuang. Being with the Luo spirit race had allowed them to experience a different kind of life. They learned what it meant to live beneath the shade of a giant tree. Every day was happy and free. Here, they were actually living, but in the martial heaven continent, they were simply surviving. In a world filled with crisis, no one knew what terrible thing would happen the next day. Everyone was unwilling to leave like this, as this place was something they dreamed of having. They felt like they had barely managed to experience this blessing before they had to leave. On the other hand, the Dragonblood warriors were like sharpened blades overflowing with battle intent. They were filled with anticipation toward the new golden armor and their new swords. As for the Dragonblood warriors that had fallen in the last battle, everyone still felt hatred for their loss. Once they returned, they would get vengeance for those fallen brothers. Even this peaceful and calm life had not erased the hatred in their hearts. A debt of blood had to be repaid with blood. Their desire for vengeance had not weakened. Now that they had advanced to the full circle of Nether Passage and were equipped with new armor and weapons, their desire for vengeance was ignited. They even felt that waiting another 6 hours was too long. Liangchen stood at the front, loudly shouting, "Warriors from the martial heaven continent, it is time for our return. Our peaceful lives have ended. What we are going to face will be an even worse battle. Since you are able to stand beside me during this time of crisis, I won't say any emotional words. I will simply remember them in my heart. During the last battle, over 300,000 of our brothers and sisters ended up having their bones buried in this foreign world. Their souls rest here. But I believe that before dying, their thoughts lay with their family." Liangchen's voice resounded through the air. His words were like hammers striking people's hearts. Upon thinking of those disciples that had fought to the death, everyone's eyes reddened. In the eyes of those heavenly geniuses, perhaps we are viewed as ants. But in the eyes of our fathers, our mothers, our families, we are their world. We are the greatest glory in their hearts. We dislike battle and killing because it only brings us pain. But some people with wild ambitions and secret schemes keep viewing us as chess pieces, as pigs for the slaughter, as tools to profit from. Even now, when the martial heaven continent is on the brink of crisis, when we should all be uniting to fight against our common enemies, the reality is that while we wish to cooperate with them, they see us as fools. How can we cooperate with them? When the battle of the dark era comes, who knows whether or not we will be sheep sent to the tiger's mouth. The divine families are powerful, but so what? We can see their attitudes from Feng Fei and Zhao Ritian. We cannot entrust our lives to them. They are not worthy of our trust. Hence, we can only trust ourselves and rely on ourselves. By standing together with me, you are entrusting your lives to me. Liangchen will not let any of you down. Starting today, we are a family. We will not beg others or make extravagant demands. We will not trust in fate or put our hopes in luck. We will use our own power to protect our family, to protect the martial heaven continent, to face the battles of the dark era. We will walk our own path. Liangchen's voice crashed through the air in waves, filled with anger and sullenness. Having been disappointed by the divine families over and over again, He knew he could not count on them anymore. Untameable was a sovereign son. If Untameable was willing to raise that banner, Liangchen would be willing to fully assist him. However, Untameable seemed to have many secrets, and perhaps he had his own mission. He didn't seem to join forces with the martial heaven continent's experts. Liangchen didn't know what Untameable was thinking. However, he knew that these warriors in front of him had entrusted their lives to him. Some had even fought to the death for him. Therefore, he had to shoulder this burden. Despite being well aware of just how heavy this burden was, he knew that he wouldn't be a man if he didn't bear it. Senior apprentice brother Liangchen, as long as it's with you, we will not frown even if we're climbing a mountain of blades or descending into a sea of fire. Although you aren't a sovereign son or a sovereign sprout, you're a hot-blooded man we can follow sincerely. We will walk through fire and offer our lives for you. You are the sovereign in our hearts. We fully trust you. Emotional roars rang out. Those who had come here were all on the level of geniuses. Even as they spat out these words, not one person felt that they were sappy. Not one person felt that they were sucking up. Amongst these experts, there was a spiritual and bloody connection. They were fighting together for the same goal. They wouldn't regret it even if they had to die 100 times. Liangchen's origin and experiences formed a resonance with them. They knew he had never submitted to anyone. Even those who hated him were unable to stain his character. Although he had plenty of enemies, no one could question that character. This was Liangchen's specific charisma, something that had drawn over countless people and made them willing to sacrifice their lives for him. There was no deceit, only sincerity. After that, Liangchen cupped his fists toward everyone, causing silence to fall once more. When we go out, I believe that various forces will have gathered, waiting for us. They still don't know what happened inside, but once we're out, the world will very likely flip on its head. Prepare yourselves. Once we're out, what awaits us is an unprecedented battle. Experts above Nether Passage might appear to suppress us. I'm not afraid. What's the worst thing that can happen? Death? I'd rather shatter as jade than survive as a brick. We'll fight together. Even if we can't beat the big ones, we can crush the small ones. Since they don't care about the martial heaven continent's safety or the big picture, why should we have to concede to them? Kill one and you go even, kill two and you've profited. We can just all fight to the death. In the end, the martial heaven continent will be destroyed. We'll have just gone one step in advance. Anger soared amongst them. They knew that in this time of crisis, fighting amongst themselves was the most foolish thing. They didn't want to fight, but then their only option was to be killed. In the end, there were always some foolish people. They could only act stupid with them as there was no other option. Either act stupid or lose their lives. It was a simple choice. No one would choose the latter, but that was what infuriated them. They were fish caught in a trap with a bunch of fools, which refused to work together to get out of the trap, forcing them to fight to the death with them. Things aren't as pessimistic as you imagine. As long as we are united, we still have hope. Sit, stand, stretch, do whatever it takes to enter your best condition. Prepare for battle, said Liangchen. Yes. Everyone immediately began to circulate their auras. They had to be ready to face battle at any moment. You're leaving so soon. It's regrettable. Lingshan walked over. At the same time, the Luo spirit race's warriors came off of the mother tree, watching as Liangchen and the others left. Every single person here was a benefactor to the Luo spirit race. Without them, the Luo spirit race would have lost their mother tree. If the mother tree died, then they wouldn't wish to live either. They were very regretful about this. But Liangchen and the others were people from a different world, so they had to leave eventually. There is no banquet that never ends. The Luo spirit race is a kind race, so you should be blessed by the heavens to continue forever. As for us, our memories of you will never be forgotten. We experienced the most peaceful time of our lives here, and the Mother Tree's assistance has also increased our power. We are all truly grateful, said Liangchen. His words were sincere. The ability to comprehend everything within the heavenly Daos at the peak of the Mother Tree had truly benefited everyone immensely. Although Lingshan didn't say anything, Liangchen knew that the mother tree had sacrificed a great deal of its source energy for them. Perhaps that source energy was what Yi Ming and the others had been planning on secretly dividing up amongst themselves. The Luo spirit race had never owed Liangchen anything. If Li Qi hadn't risked herself to save him, perhaps he would already be dead. Hence, he was the one benefiting from the Luo spirit race. However, due to paying back this debt of gratitude, he had ended up dragging in the Martial Heaven Alliance, the Dongfang family, the Nangong family, and the others, implicating so many deaths. Liangchen was filled with shame over this. It was due to this that Liangchen no longer wished to fight alone. He was willing to pick up this heavy burden and tie everyone's lives together. Lingshan smiled. "We've consecrated you as our god. We will do as you wish." After saying that, Lingshan pressed her forehead against Liangchen's, startling him. A sharp pain suddenly rang through his head, and a leaf-shaped rune was branded on his forehead. After that, the rune quickly faded as if it had never been there at all. Lingshan then pressed her right hand over her chest and bowed deeply toward Liangchen. "The mother tree's life mark is now connected to you. Perhaps one day, our Luo spirit race will have another chance to fight alongside you." Just at that moment, the runes around everyone's body rapidly grew. Liangchen didn't even get a chance to say goodbye when the void twisted, swallowing all of them. Everyone from the Martial Heaven continent vanished. One day ago, on the Martial Heaven continent, where the Central Plains southern and western Xian regions met, space began to shudder. After that, a giant spatial door appeared in the air. This door was closed shut, but rumblings spread from it along with a violent aura. The entire Central Plains could sense the terrifying world energy. This was the 9th day since the disciples of the Martial Heaven continent had entered the star-field divine world. Although it was just 9 days, those 9 days had felt exceptionally long for them. The various experts of the continent rushed over to the spatial door when it appeared. The Martial Heaven Alliance, Pill Valley, the Corrupt Path, the Ancient Races, the Ancient Family Alliance, the Xian Beasts, all the seniors of the various powers gathered. HM? It seems there are fewer elders of the Martial Heaven Alliance now. Wait, check their auras. When Chu Jianying, the old man, Li Tianxian, and the other elders of the Martial Heaven Alliance appeared, the others were startled. The others found that their auras had reached the 4th step of Nether Passage, but they had also lost a few familiar faces. It had to be known that at this time, all the elders would come out to welcome their disciples back. I heard that the Martial Heaven Alliance's elders used medicinal pills to forcibly attack the 4th step of Nether Passage. A portion of them died from it, whispered someone. How ruthless! Their lives had reached the limit, yet they still forcibly tried to break through. The odds of failure are way too high. A group of foolish idiots. At least a bunch of them have died. While everyone else was just whispering, one person spoke loudly. It was clearly intentional. The sea demon race? An army of millions of sea demons was flying over. They had intentionally summoned their true bodies, making them as big as mountains. They had 3 leaders in human form, and the one at the very front had a golden crown. It was an icy-faced elder. 6 golden horns were protruding through his crown. His eyes shone like lanterns, and divine light came out whenever they opened. This old man seemed to be one with heaven and earth. Someone above Nether Passage. Everyone's heart shook. The sea demon race had actually sent out an expert above Nether Passage, and not just one. It seemed that the other 2 had reached the same level. The other 2 were bald, with their heads being exceptionally glossy. Moreover, they had tortoise shells on their backs and strange lines on their faces. Standing there, the 2 of them also seemed to be one with heaven and earth. It felt as if a look from them could destroy the world. They sent out 3 experts above Nether Passage at once? What is the sea demon race planning? Is this a display of power? The sea demon race was insulting the Martial Heaven Alliance so openly. They clearly hadn't come with good intentions. Courting death, the old man shouted furiously. The millions of righteous experts were just as angry as him. After all, those seniors of the Martial Heaven Alliance had bet their own lives in order to have some use on the battlefield in the future. Every one of them was a hero. For the sea demon race to mock those fallen seniors instantly provoked them. They were far too arrogant, the particularly brainless kind of arrogant. Calm down. Chu Jianying grabbed the old man. The old man had also advanced to the fourth step, but he had relied on his own power to reach this level, not medicinal pills. Having only recently advanced, his aura wasn't stable yet, so he was particularly easy to anger at this time. Nonetheless, the old man's temper had always been bad, so if it wasn't for Chu Jianying holding him back, he would have attacked just now. A group of ants. You'll be dying in the upcoming battles of the Dark Era. Your struggles are futile, said one of the bald elders with the tortoise shell on his back. The previous mocking had also come from him. The Martial Heaven Alliance is so lacking. They didn't even bring out a single person above Nether Passage, throwing away the face of such a large power. The Martial Heaven Alliance has truly fallen. What? We're talking about you, do you disagree? The other bald elders spoke up as well. The two of them looked identical, and even the way they spoke was the same. Fuck, do you think that tortoise shell will protect you? Get your ass over here and I'll break that damn shell, roared the old man. The bald elders smiled coldly. They were about to step forward when the elder with the golden crown snorted. What is there to fight about with a Nether Passage rookie? Don't lose face. The two bald elders stopped and glanced at the old man. Count yourself lucky, or you wouldn't even be qualified to see the battle of the Dark Era. I don't mind telling you the truth. Our young master will obtain the sea god's inheritance once making his breakthrough in the star-field divine world. Furthermore, once he breaks through to the 13th rank, his divine bone will awaken and he will be able to summon the true body of the sea god. At that time, all of you will be beneath him. Not one person will be a match for him, and even sovereign sprouts will only be green leaves compared to him. Perhaps most of you people will have a chance to surrender, but Liangchen will definitely be killed. Even a sovereign sprout will become a green leaf? What arrogant words! Are you not afraid of choking on such big words? Just at this moment, an icy voice rang out. That voice was surprisingly young in this place that was filled with seniors. However, despite being young, it created a resonance with heaven and earth. Startled, everyone looked over to see a golden war chariot rushing over. It was like a golden shooting star. The war chariot's runes were shining, making it look like a blazing sun. It was too bright to look at directly. When the runes of the war chariot slowly faded, they realized that there were tens of thousands of warriors on it, all adorned in silver armor. Every one of them was unleashing a heavy killing intent and a bloody air. This killing intent was not something that could be trained. It was the result of experiencing countless slaughters, from walking out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. There was a white-robed man standing at the front of the war chariot. Upon seeing him, everyone jumped. He had a third vertical eye, but that eye was closed. However, just looking at it made people feel their goosebumps exploding. A sense of immense danger filled their hearts. Just standing there, heavenly Tao energy whirled around him, as if wishing for him to use it. This was a shocking phenomenon where the heavenly Taos were throwing themselves at him to use. This was something that the people here had never seen before. So what if he summons the sea god's true body? This place is the Martial Heaven continent, and a sovereign could suppress him with a wave of his hand. If you don't like it, then once your king comes out, Ye Liangchen will be willing to give a display for you to understand, said the white-robed man, his hands clasped behind him. Even in the face of the elder with the golden crown, he didn't show the slightest emotion. The sovereign sprout of the Yi family is quite arrogant. Right now, the heavenly Taos are muddled, and a sovereign has yet to appear. Who knows whether or not a sovereign will even appear in this era? Youngsters shouldn't be so arrogant. My race is the sea god's descendants and we are fated to rise during this era. The will of the heavens cannot be disobeyed. If you say such big words, you won't be able to take them back later. You will lose quite a bit of face then, said the crowned elder with a faint smile. It seemed that he already knew Ye Liangchen's status, but he didn't care. The six-horned sea serpent race's divine abilities can only show their full potential upon reaching the 13th rank. Fine, I'll give you a chance. When your so-called king reaches the 13th rank, I'll crush him. Ye Liangchen snorted. Foolish brat, do you know who you're talking to? Demanded one of the bald elders. After that, Ye Liangchen glanced at him. All of a sudden, his third eye opened and the void shuddered. As a result, blood spurted out of the bald elder's chest. At some point, a giant cut had appeared there. The bald elder then stared at Ye Liangchen in shock. A slave thinks he can talk here? If you dare to be noisy again, even if you have your master standing beside you, I'll still kill you, said Ye Liangchen. His third eye was already closed. The bald elder was shocked and infuriated, but he didn't dare to speak. Everyone was stunned, not knowing what had happened. Ye Liangchen had simply opened his third eye. He hadn't even moved, but it was as if the bald elder had been struck by a sword. That elder was an existence above nether passage. Considering that he came from a tortoise race, his defensive power must be astounding. Hence, the fact that he was silently injured was horrifying. Ye Liangchen was clearly in the nether passage realm, but he was able to injure the bald elder easily. The old man, Chu Jianying, and the others were stunned. Ye Liangchen seemed even more terrifying than Feng Fei. Why didn't such a figure enter the star-field divine world? Was it because he felt it wasn't worth it? Youngster, don't be too arrogant. If it wasn't due to your youth, I wouldn't be so courteous, said the crowned elder angrily. Due to my youth? Please. It's because of the divine families, isn't it? Take care of your dog and tell it not to make noise when its master is conversing. Otherwise, it will lose you face, sneered Ye Liangchen. After that, Ye Liangchen didn't give him a chance to respond. He already turned his gaze to Chu Jianying. I hear that the martial heaven continent has a little fellow who is so arrogant as to not place even the divine families in his eyes? The reason I deigned to descend here was to suppress him. I'm saying this so you're mentally prepared. Chu Jianying was shocked as well as enraged. This expert had actually come to suppress Liangchen? The divine families had truly gone too far. Ye Liangchen, if you're going to say that, then you're not giving me, Aotian, any face. An arrogant voice rang out along with a thunderous roar. After that, they could see a giant beast flying through the air. A giant leopard with glossy black fur came rushing over like a bolt of black lightning. With its final leap, it roared and a violent sound wave shook the void. The leopard was carrying a chariot made out of immortal gold, and the chariot was so big that it was like an entire palace. Tens of thousands of white-robed young experts were standing on top of it, all of them wearing swords on their belts. After the chariot stopped, four beautiful white-robed maidens opened the door, and a man walked out. This tall, thin man had black shoulder-length hair. He was extremely handsome with bright eyes and sharp eyebrows. His white robes were untouched by dust. A 3-foot-wide ring of light was behind his head, and there seemed to be the sun, moon, and stars revolving within the ring. Divine light enveloped him, making him seem like a divine king. As soon as he arrived, everyone clearly felt heavenly Tao energy rush toward him, as if prostrating to him. It was like a look from him could control the Tao. This person's chariot also had the marking of the divine families. In other words, another terrifying sovereign sprout had just appeared amongst the divine families. Aotian, why should I give you face? Have you forgotten that it was that fellow called Liangchen who didn't give us any face when we underwent our tribulations in the immemorial path? Fortunately, the head intervened in time, sending us to another world to complete our tribulations. Don't tell me you've forgotten. I've already investigated and know that this Liangchen is the same Liangchen from back then. Are you telling me that the always arrogant Aotian is going to forget about this just to accept a loyal dog? Perhaps you can forget it, but I, Ye Liangchen, cannot. If you don't like it, why don't we make a bet right now? We can bet whether or not I can kill him once he comes out, said Ye Liangchen, just as arrogantly as before. Aotian frowned. Ye Liangchen, the times have changed. The martial heaven continent requires everyone useful to unite, hence, any past grievances can be settled after the Dark Era. Fighting amongst ourselves will only make us lose face. Give it up. Lose face? Do you think my Yi family is stupid? Your Long family doesn't give a damn about Liangchen's potential. You just want his secrets. You want to know how he raised a group of trash into elites. Is talking so sanctimoniously interesting? Who do you think you can trick? Ye Liangchen laughed contemptuously. Everyone present realized that Ye Liangchen came from the divine family's Ye family, while Long Aotian came from the divine family's Long family. It was rumored that the two families had some conflicts between them. It was no wonder the two of them would immediately act so hostile to each other. However, Ye Liangchen's words were truly sharp. He didn't give the Long family any face, directly saying that the Long family's care for Liangchen was just a trap. Just as they were clashing, more experts arrived. All the large figures of the martial heaven continent had gathered, so Ye Liangchen's words caused quite a bit of private discussion. After all, his words were extremely reasonable. There were many things that didn't make sense about Liangchen's rise. He had been trash at cultivation but had suddenly soared. The most inexplicable thing was that he had raised a group of trash along with him, turning a group of unremarkable people into the world-shocking Dragonblood Legion. Anyone with the slightest brains would know that Liangchen definitely had some secrets. However, as his position rose, people gave up on finding out. No one had the guts to go after him. However, now that Ye Liangchen mentioned it, everyone's heart shook. Although the divine families were supreme existences, whether or not the Long family was intent on learning Liangchen's secrets was truly unknown. Quite a few people felt some respect for how sharp Ye Liangchen's words were. Just like that, he managed to create some conflict between Liangchen and the Long family. Long Aotian's gaze turned colder. Ye Liangchen, don't judge the heart of a noble with the character of a petty little man. Me, a petty little man? Haha, if your Long family really was a noble back then, your Long family wouldn't have shut up. Long Aotian's shout was like thunder shaking everyone's ears and soul. After that, they involuntarily quivered. That voice was like the furious order of a god. What a terrifying will! People were horrified as this shout contained violent pressure. In that instant, they had lost their connection to heavenly Tao energy. It seemed as if a shout from Long Aotian could strip their heavenly Tao energy away. That stunned everyone. What kind of power was this? Without heavenly Tao energy, how could anyone fight? He truly is worthy of being a sovereign sprout. He has started merging with the heavenly Taos at the Great Circle of Nether Passage. He's essentially half a step into that realm. The speaker was the most senior of all the elders on the martial heaven continent. She was Taoist Heavenly Feather of the Divine Ice Palace. No one knew her true age. All they knew was that everyone in her generation had died. Taoist Heavenly Feather always maintained the appearance of someone in her 20s, making countless women envious. She was the only one capable of maintaining their cultivation base and looks forever. In the cultivation world, there were plenty of old men but few old women. Many women were afraid of aging, so they sacrificed a great deal of their longevity to maintain their youthful looks. Once their longevity was exhausted, they would rather die beautiful. Hence, Taoist Heavenly Feather was an extremely mysterious existence on the martial heaven continent. Therefore, she instantly drew everyone's attention when she spoke. Senior, just what is the realm above Nether Passage? Why can't it be mentioned? Asked someone. Many people's expressions changed when that person asked the question. He was an elder whose cultivation base had reached the 3rd step of Nether Passage. But even then, his sect leader immediately dragged him back, chided him, and apologized to Taoist Heavenly Feather. Taoist Heavenly Feather smiled slightly. It cannot be said. It is because the next realm relates to the heavens. Speaking of it will draw karma. Within every generation, the first to say that name will have karma target them, and they will very likely die immediately. This can be considered a warning by the heavenly Taos. If you don't mind me making a presumptuous guess, I'd say it is because the heavenly Taos are not happy with those who speak of this realm. Those who draw the ire of the heavenly Taos all have bad ends. Wasn't Heavenly Fate Island destroyed because of this as well? They were only able to divine the tiniest hairs of fate. Moreover, they were only able to divine man but not the heavenly Taos. If they had tried to divine the nature of the heavenly Taos, they would have long since been destroyed. This karma is why so many people know the name of this realm, but refuse to tell their disciples. It will draw karma to both the speaker and the hearer. Unless what? Everyone hastily asked. Unless there is someone who guesses the name of this realm. By voicing this fate secret, this name will no longer be taboo. However, the one to say it will definitely be in trouble and targeted by the heavens. That is why the senior generation warns the juniors not to wildly guess. If they do guess correctly, it won't be good for them, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Everyone came to a sudden comprehension. No wonder they were always sternly chided when they asked their seniors about this. No, that doesn't make sense either. If it can't be talked about, why do so many people know it? Because amongst the senior generations, there have been some unlucky fellows to shout it out. Those people died but benefited everyone else. That's why the people in those generations know the name, but they cannot say it, sighed an extremely old man with a cane. I wonder which unlucky bastard it's going to be this time? It was unknown who mumbled this. Everyone looked at each other. It seemed that this secret was going to be exposed soon. The martial heaven continent had entered its most flourishing age, and the geniuses were preparing to attack the next realm. Once they did, there would definitely be someone to accidentally shout it for everyone else. Aotian, don't talk down to me. In our 37 battles, we've never managed to decide a winner. Do you think a bigger throat can scare me off? In reply to Aotian's roar, Ye Liangchen merely sneered. But he did not mention that topic again. Ye Liangchen, with me here, you can't kill Liangchen. The divine families will also not permit you to do so. If you just want to humiliate him a bit, perhaps the divine families won't care, but you'll have to face a strict punishment if you kill him, warned Aotian. It's just a dog. So what if I kill him? Do you think the divine families will take my life just because of a dog? Today, I'm going to kill Liangchen. We'll see who can stop me. We can make a bet if you want, said Ye Liangchen lightly. Just at this moment, another war chariot came rumbling over. Upon seeing it, Ye Liangchen snickered. Jiang Wuchen has come as well. Now, everyone who had to suffer that tribulation has come. Let's see how you stop both of us. A group of armored experts walked off of the chariot. There were still some bloodstains on their armor, and dents killing intent soared out of them. It seemed that they had just come from a battlefield. Those warriors were escorting a large man with long facial hair. He was extremely tall, like a small giant. It was like he was a monster in human form. A strong scent of blood came from him, and he had a giant hatchet on his back. As he walked across the void shuddered. Looks like I came in time. Let me see just how many heads that brat who conned me back then has. I wonder if there's enough for me to cut them all down, snorted the large man. He wasn't intentionally speaking loudly, but every one of his words exploded through the air like thunder. Another sovereign sprout. Every expert stared in shock. The divine families actually had 3 more sovereign sprouts other than Feng Fei. Feng Fei is from the Jiang family, while this guy is also surnamed Jiang. Did the Jiang family produce 2 sovereign sprouts? I hear the divine families are the Jiang, Long, Yi, and Zhao families. The Zhao family also has a sovereign sprout named Zhao Ritian. It's said that he controls metal energy and possesses an undying body. I wonder if he'll come as well, said someone with a certain understanding of the divine families. The martial heaven continent side was still unaware that Zhao Ritian had secretly entered the star-field divine world as well. He had already been toyed with by Guoran. Jiang Wuchen came in so ferociously with blood still staining his body. However, the words between the 3 of them puzzled everyone. They kept mentioning how Liangchen had made them suffer. But how was that possible? The divine families were supreme existences. They essentially ignored the matters of the martial heaven continent. The sovereign sprouts in particular were special existences amongst the divine families. They were geniuses amongst geniuses. How had they ended up interacting with Liangchen? Everyone stared at each other. They could only conclude that Liangchen was truly a monster. He had made all these sovereign sprouts suffer. Even Chu Jianying, the old man, and the others were dumbfounded. They had never heard Liangchen mention this matter before. Did he actually have such illustrious combat achievements? Jiang Wuchen, the 4 of us were conned by that brat back then. Now we can finally get our revenge. But it seems that someone wants to shamelessly accept that dog and is willing to go against us because of it. What do you think about that? Ye Liangchen asked Jiang Wuchen. Jiang Wuchen then looked at Long Aotian. Long Aotian, I have no enmity with you. Our relationship can be considered decent, but I can't give you face over this matter. He humiliated us and must pay the price. I can let him off alive, but he must kowtow 3 times. Then I can spare his life. Do you know what the Lord Venerate wants? Said Long Aotian coldly. Don't try to use the Lord Venerate to suppress us. I came from resentful Death City straight here. No one gave me any information about that, nor do I need any. Today, I'm going to make that arrogant fellow pay the price for his arrogance back then, said Jiang Wuchen. The 3 sovereign sprouts stood in the sky, facing each other in a triangle formation. All 3 of them had brought tens of thousands of subordinates. They were staring coldly at each other. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Haha, this time, Long Chen's definitely dead. No one can protect him. Alliance Head Chu, all your plans are going to come to an end. The head of the ancient family alliance, Di Long, smiled sinisterly, intentionally provoking Chu Jianing. If the Martial Heaven Alliance doesn't have Long Chen, it will immediately scatter like smoke in the wind. As for the righteous path? Sooner or later they're going to be ruled by the corrupt path, said Xie Wenyan with a cruel light in his eyes. Long Chen had been a thorn in the corrupt path's side. Ever since his rise, he had dealt countless setbacks to the corrupt path. He was like their bane, causing them to lose endless face. Don't get excited too early. Suddenly, the crowned elder of the sea demon race spoke up. The Zhao family's sovereign sprout entered the star-field divine world with Feng Fei, while my race's young prince has awakened the sea god's weapon. Since both parties hate Long Chen, he might not even come out of the star-field divine world alive. Moreover, Xie Wenyan, you were pretty sinister. You actually sent the 7th-generation corrupt god's reincarnation in without exposing the slightest clue. Isn't that to act like a pig to devour the tiger? You're the one who's most clear on whether or not Long Chen will be coming out alive, am I right? Why are you acting so fake now? The 7th-generation corrupt god's reincarnation? The righteous path's experts jumped. They suddenly thought of a mysterious person that had been by Tian Xiezi's side. Xie Wenyan twitched. He snorted, the sea demon race's mouths are quite big. Xie Wenyan was startled to find that this secret had been leaked. According to what he knew, only the divine families should possibly be aware of it. However, this person had still exposed it. That meant that they had to have a collaboration with the divine families, and the divine families had leaked this secret to them. As for saying his mouth was big, he was mocking him for not knowing how to keep secrets. To put it frankly, he was calling him an idiot. Chu Jianing's face turned pale. This star-field divine world was clearly a trap then. If so many people were targeting Long Chen, he must have faced many tribulations. Don't worry. So what if they're sovereign sprouts? So what if he's a reincarnation of a corrupt god? Long Chen definitely isn't inferior to any of them, comforted the old man. Even though that was what he said, the old man was also nervous. This time, the enemies were truly terrifying. Fuck, why hasn't the heaven-splitting divine tablet come back? With it, I could slaughter these bastards. The old man eyed these fellows furiously. You don't need to worry. Long Chen will be fine. I trust him, said Taoist Heavenly Feather suddenly. Although Taoist Heavenly Feather had always stood in the neutral position, she always maintained a certain care for the Martial Heaven Alliance. Are you not afraid that you've made a misjudgment? Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out. Startled at this rudeness to Taoist Heavenly Feather, everyone looked over to see that the speaker was the head of the Dongfang family. The Dongfang, Shimen, Nangong, and Beitang families were already here. While the first 2 were in their own isolated areas, the Beitang and Nangong families were banded together. Due to Nangong Ziyu and Beitang Rushuang, the 2 families had ended up particularly close. For the Dongfang family head to suddenly speak here, the other 3 family heads were all startled. Their impression of the Dongfang family head was that he was always cautious and crafty. Why would he suddenly target Taoist Heavenly Feather? Did he take the wrong medicine this morning? You dare to question Taoist Heavenly Feather? When Taoist Heavenly Feather swept through the continent, your great-granddaddy was still playing in the mud. Taoist Heavenly Feather is the leader of the entire cultivation world. Are you trying to challenge her? Quite a few people began to curse at the Dongfang family head. Taoist Heavenly Feather was revered by countless people, and she was viewed as practically a history book. Her knowledge could not be questioned. Hence, many people amongst the neutral faction glared at him. It doesn't seem that I said anything wrong. Is it wrong to question such a statement? The Dongfang family head smiled indifferently. Just as everyone was going to continue cursing him, Taoist Heavenly Feather said, "To tell the truth, everyone says that an old person's vision will grow blurry. It truly is easy to make misjudgments. But despite that, I can say that my eyes can still see very clearly. For example, I can see the heaven Caesar of your family that takes other people's inheritances." What? Everyone was shocked by this. A heaven Caesar? Wasn't that an existence that was not permitted on the martial heaven continent? If anyone dared to raise a heaven Caesar, they would immediately be wiped out by the rest of the powers of the continent. The Dongfang family was raising a heaven Caesar? Could it be? Everyone immediately thought of Dongfang Yang. What nonsense are you spouting? Don't think that just because of your seniority you can slander others. The Dongfang family head's expression changed, and he pointed and shouted at Taoist Heavenly Feather. His heart was pounding wildly. Despite him trying to calm down, the gaze of countless experts applied immense psychological pressure on him. He began to panic. Why are you so nervous? If you are afraid of this secret being exposed, you should have kept quiet and not targeted me. Even though I've spoken now, I have no proof. Furthermore, you have the support of the divine families. What are you afraid of? Taoist Heavenly Feather shook her head. This is slander, raged the Dongfang family head. If you say it's slander, then it's slander. Everyone, you can just treat it as a joke, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Treat it as a joke? No one was capable of that. Heaven Caesars were a nightmare to deal with. They should not exist in this world. With Taoist Heavenly Feather's status, how could she possibly make such a joke? Everyone stared at the Dongfang family head vigilantly. The Dongfang family is under the protection of the Ye family. What, do you not like it? The words on their side had ended up disturbing the three sovereign sprouts. Ye Liangchen then turned to glare at Taoist Heavenly Feather arrogantly. How could I not like it? The future belongs to you youngsters. An old woman like me has no choice but to accept it, said Taoist Heavenly Feather with a light smile. Although she didn't show the slightest displeasure, countless people were infuriated on her behalf. Suddenly, the spatial door began to shudder. As it slowly opened, balls of light appeared. It was possible to see figures within those balls of light. They've come out. Everyone immediately tensed and stopped breathing, staring intently at those balls of light. Balls of light appeared, looking like stars in the sky. Those were the disciples that were leaving the star-filled divine world. At this time, it was impossible to see who was who within that light. However, everyone was searching for the auras that they were most familiar with. What? The arrogant sea demons' expressions fell. They could only sense the auras of a few sea demons. However, the worst thing was that they didn't sense the existence of the prince of the six-horned sea serpent race. As the crowned elder of the sea demon race was also from the six-horned sea serpent race, he began to grow uneasy. The sea demon race was not the only ones whose expressions fell, there was also the corrupt path. At this moment, Xie Wenyan and the others could sense no more than 1,000 corrupt disciples amongst those balls of light. Where had the corrupt path's army of hundreds of thousands gone? Furthermore, Tian Xiezi's aura was not present. The only thing that made Xie Wenyan feel slightly better was that Yi Ming's aura was still there. Meanwhile, Di Long turned pale. He no longer had his dignified appearance of having victory in grasp. He couldn't find Di Feng's aura. Only the Martial Heaven Alliance, Beiteng family, Nangong family, Mo family, Shen beasts, and some neutral powers gradually smiled. They could sense the majority of those familiar auras. They relaxed ever so slightly. However, those balls of light were still shining brightly. They could only barely sense auras but not see their appearances. Liangchen, Lingshan, and the others are all alive. Hee, I told you that they'd be fine, laughed the old man. Look at the corrupt path, sea demon race, and ancient family alliance. It seems that they aren't too happy. Ye Liangchen smiled slightly. He had the most confidence in Liangchen. Hearing him, the others looked over to see that those people's expressions were truly ugly. Could it be? Suddenly, one ball of light shot out like a shooting star at another. Even before leaving the balls of light, whoever was inside was attacking. Boom! The other ball of light exploded and a wretched figure appeared, flying back. Dongfang Yuyang? The one inside the ball of light was the Dongfang family's peak genius. He appeared panicked and hastily fled. Boom! The other ball of light that had attacked him exploded, revealing Liangchen. Last time, I let you off too easily by killing you. Thank you for giving me another chance. Lightning wings spread on Liangchen's back, and his figure vanished, reappearing in front of Dongfang Yuyang. His speed was shocking. On the martial heaven continent, with the familiar laws and space, his speed increased. It was because Lei Long had been impacted by the star field divine world. Liangchen, you killed Di Feng and the young king of the sea demon race, suppressed Zhao Ritian, and almost wiped out the sea demon race and the corrupt path's disciples. Do you think you can leave this place alive? Roared Dongfang Yuyang. What? This roar from Dongfang Yuyang was transmitted into the ears of every single person present, shocking everyone. Was this really true? The Dongfang family, sea demon race, and the corrupt path's expressions all changed. Furthermore, the three sovereign sprouts of the divine families were startled. Zhao Ritian had been suppressed? You won't get to see whether or not I live, sneered Liangchen. He knew that Dongfang Yuyang was trying to get everyone to attack him, so that Dongfang Yuyang would have a chance to slip away. However, Liangchen didn't care. His astral spaces shuddered with a terrifying power. Upon entering the 12th heaven stage of Nether Passage, Liangchen learned how to focus all his power into one spot. His fist howled through the air and seemed covered by countless stars. Even heaven and earth were suppressed by this fist. There was nowhere to run. I'll go all out against you. Dongfang Yuyang roared, and his manifestation burst into existence, shocking everyone. Isn't that Shi Lingfeng's manifestation? The Stone Emperor's manifestation. There's also the Blood Emperor's manifestation and the Pring Emperor's manifestation. Heavens, how can he possess so many manifestations? Everyone was stunned. Shi Lingfeng, Kang Pingzi, and Shui Luocha's manifestations had been seen by many people before. Those were the manifestations of emperors. After just one look, it was impossible to forget them. For Dongfang Yuyang to summon 3 emperor manifestations at once, they immediately thought of Taoist Heavenly Feather's words. He really is a heaven Caesar. Furious roars rang out. People glared at the Dongfang family head, killing intent blazing within them. Boom! The void erupted as though a sun had exploded. Liangchen's fist then smashed into Dongfang Yuyang's sword, which instantly exploded along with the 3 emperor manifestations. After that, Dongfang Yuyang hacked up blood. What? Just now, they had sensed the auras of the Pring Emperor, Stone Emperor, and the Blood Emperor on Dongfang Yuyang's sword. That meant even with the power of 3 emperors concentrated into his sword, he was unable to beat Liangchen's simple punch. Liangchen is far more terrifying than before. The martial heaven continent's experts were all amazed. Just what had happened to Liangchen inside of the star field divine world for him to have such a transformation? What he was facing was a heaven Caesar, a forbidden existence. The latter had concentrated the power of 3 emperors but was still unable to receive a single attack from Liangchen. Hence, everyone was dumbfounded. Was the power of a heaven Caesar not as great as they had expected? Furthermore, from their previous words, it seemed that Liangchen had killed Dongfang Yuyang once. But it seemed to have been a clone. Dongfang Yuyang hastily retreated as he hacked up blood. However, Liangchen's hand reached out like a sharp claw, grabbing Dongfang Yuyang's fist and pulling. As a result, Dongfang Yuyang shrieked. His arm was torn off. Dongfang Yuyang, you can only hide behind your sinister schemes. When it comes to true power, you're dog's hit. Your word is worth even less than dog's hit. Did a little despicable person like you rely on these little schemes to become an expert? You must have been dreaming. Real experts are created through true power. To use the old man's words, in front of absolute power, all schemes are meaningless. Liangchen sneered and waved his hand. The torn-off arm then exploded and Liangchen moved toward Dongfang Yuyang once again. Hee, that's just what I said. At least he remembered those words. The old man smiled, pleased. Having lost an arm, Dongfang Yuyang flew back, trying to reach the other experts of the Dongfang family. He begged for assistance. Those Dongfang family experts also charged over to save him. However, space shuddered, revealing a blue barrier around the spatial door, separating Dongfang Yuyang from the other experts of the Dongfang family. The world wall is still present. It is impossible to enter that space. The world gate was still slowly closing. Only once it was fully closed would that space be opened. Hence, Dongfang Yuyang was knocked back by the world wall, allowing Liangchen to grab his other arm and tear it off. Liangchen then kicked Dongfang Yuyang's abdomen, sending him flying and causing his abdomen to cave in. More blood was hacked out. As a heaven Caesar, you should have endured until you had reached the point of controlling this world. In terms of martial power, you aren't my match. In terms of intelligence, you're an idiot. Other than managing to reach new levels of despicableness, you are nothing. The other arm in Liangchen's hand also exploded. After that, he began advancing toward Dongfang Yuyang step by step. Dongfang Yuyang continued to hack up blood. Both his arms had been torn off, and blood had turned his white robe scarlet. His handsome face was now twisted in bitterness and fear. He clenched his teeth. In the star-field divine world, he had had a fortuitous encounter that allowed him to create a substitute with the exact same power as the true body. Such a substitute was exceedingly rare. Hence, he hadn't expected that this substitute would actually be destroyed by Liangchen. At that time, he had been traumatized. It was fortunate that it had been his substitute and not his true body, or he would already be dead. The power that Liangchen had displayed terrified him. During this entire time, he had been hiding in the star-field divine world, not even daring to go searching for treasures. He had thought that now that he had left the star-field divine world, he would be safe. However, he hadn't expected Liangchen to take advantage of this moment when the world wall had yet to fade to attack him. Liangchen's attacks contained terrifying power that suppressed the heavenly Daos and Dongfang Yuyang's core energy. Hence, he couldn't heal. Having lost both his arms, he appeared incredibly minuscule to the domineering Liangchen. Seeing Liangchen walk toward him like a death god, he was lost in terror. Feng Fei Yiming, Pill Fairy, come save me. We are allies. Not one ball of light responded to him. You can shout until you break your throat. Those balls of light contain the final blessing of the star-field divine world. Other than me, no one else is willing to give up that blessing to look after you, sneered Liangchen. He stepped toward Dongfang Yuyang. Outside the world wall, the Dongfang family had began to beg Ye Liangchen to intervene. After all, the Dongfang family had cast their lot toward the Yi family, becoming their subordinates. Ye Liangchen then frowned and suddenly shouted, Liangchen, release Dongfang Yuyang, and I can give you a chance to live. Boom. Dongfang Yuyang's body exploded. Carrying his head, Liangchen turned to look at Ye Liangchen. From which rat bastard hole did you climb out of? My mood's not very good, so don't try to court death today. Liangchen looked through the world wall at the icy, arrogant man who had said such a stupid thing to him. Liangchen didn't know who he was, but just looking at him made his anger flare. For some reason, whether it was his expression, his voice, or his movements, they all contained a hateful flavor to them. If he encountered such a person normally, he would simply ignore them. But with his rage burning so strongly, he naturally wasn't courteous. As Liangchen's cultivation base rose, his control over his temper got worse and worse. Despite completely suppressing Dongfang Yuyang, essentially venting his anger, his rage only got worse. At this moment, the scenes of the battle in front of the mother tree reappeared in his mind. He saw Dongfang Yuyang threatening him with Ye Liangchen. That sinister smile of his was clear in his mind. Liangchen had an urge to make Dongfang Yuyang have 100 lives so he could kill them one by one. That was the only way to release his anger. In reply to Ye Liangchen's threat, Liangchen directly showed him Dongfang Yuyang's head. "Save me!" shouted Dongfang Yuyang. This was no substitute but his true body. Hence, he was filled with terror. He had never thought that such a day would come for him. Now he was tasting something new, and he was even more afraid of death than ordinary disciples. His voice was filled with a sobbing tone. That made the other experts look down on him even more. This was a peerless heavenly genius? A heaven Caesar? In front of death, he became a coward. Even an ordinary disciple wouldn't act like this. No one knew what kind of troubles Dongfang Yuyang had created in the star-field divine world, but for Liangchen to hate him so much, he definitely hadn't done anything good. Since he dared to do those things, he had to accept the consequences. Now he was in Liangchen's hands, shouting and wailing. Rather than resolving his predicament, it only made him a laughingstock before his death. The day a person stepped onto the cultivation path, they had to face death. Even ordinary disciples understood this. However, Dongfang Yuyang was actually such a coward. On the other hand, Liangchen didn't show any courtesy even to a sovereign sprout of the divine families. This was what being domineering meant. Liangchen didn't show the slightest fear against anyone. Ye Liangchen shouted, "Brat, you're the one courting death. Don't think that a hostage will protect you. Let me tell you, you were the one who blasphemed us back in the immemorial path. I, Ye Liangchen, have 10,000 ways to make you live a life worse than death. If you understand, then hurry up and dash." So it was you. Liangchen suddenly realized why his voice was so familiar. Back then, when Yu Shaoqian had been undergoing her tribulation in the immemorial path, the very heavens had been torn open, and 4 dislikable fellows had appeared to undergo their own tribulations, implicating Yu Shaoqian and almost getting her killed. At that time, Liangchen had asked them to slow down, but the 4 of them had been exceedingly arrogant and hadn't cared about Yu Shaoqian's life or death. Hence, Liangchen was enraged by that. As soon as Yu Shaoqian had passed her tribulation, seeing her bloody state, Liangchen had directly started his own tribulation, even attacking his tribulation to strengthen it. That had caused the 4 of them to fail their tribulation, and they had fled. Even after so many years, Liangchen hadn't forgotten about it. When he had seen Zhao Ritian, those memories had been triggered. Amongst those 4, it was Ye Liangchen who had given him the deepest impression. In this world, the only one whose voice could make Liangchen want to slap them to death was probably Ye Liangchen. Seeing Liangchen's sudden realization, all the experts were speechless. Just what kind of monster was he? After creating such a deep grudge with someone, he had actually forgotten about them? When Liangchen was in the immemorial path, he was nothing more than a cultivation rookie. However, he had actually managed to offend 4 sovereign sprouts in that state. That kind of ability was truly amazing. At this moment, the world gate slowly closed. The void shuddered and creaked, while countless cracks appeared in the sky. Those balls of light also grew brighter, making the indistinct figures appear clearer, revealing their true appearances. Now, Ye Liangchen was furious. His family had told him that they had found him a powerful subordinate. It was a heaven Caesar. As long as Dongfang Yuyang was willing to make a spiritual contract with him, Dongfang Yuyang would become his eternal follower. The reason the Dongfang family had done this was because they had no choice. The Yi family head had personally come to them. If the Dongfang family had refused, the Yi family would have wiped them out. All the Yi family would have needed to do was announce Dongfang Yuyang's status, and then the Dongfang family would be wiped out overnight. The only reason they hadn't done the spiritual contract earlier was because Dongfang Yuyang had entered the star-field divine world, while Ye Liangchen hadn't been on the martial heaven continent before. They had to wait until Dongfang Yuyang returned to make the contract. However, the contract that they had discussed was double-sided. Dongfang Yuyang had to be loyal to Ye Liangchen and never betray him, but Ye Liangchen was also bound. If Dongfang Yuyang died, his soul would receive a heavy blow. It was only due to the second condition that the Dongfang family was willing to make Dongfang Yuyang Ye Liangchen's subordinate. This would link the two families together, so it was a good thing for them. As for the existence of a heaven Caesar, even to the Yi family, it was extremely shocking. A random investigation had somehow noticed some oddities about Dongfang Yuyang, and a deeper investigation had revealed this shocking secret. If a heaven Caesar could be raised, they would definitely become a terrifying existence. That was why the Yi family would directly come to force the Dongfang family to submit. Ye Liangchen had been looking forward to this new subordinate. As an expert, having another supreme expert as a subordinate was a kind of glory. It was even better than having a powerful mount. That was why Ye Liangchen had sincerely wanted to protect Dongfang Yuyang. But Liangchen didn't care about that. Liangchen, don't misunderstand. Releasing him is your only chance of living. Once the world wall fades away, you will have a miserable death, said Ye Liangchen sinisterly. What an idiot. If you know that I'm Liangchen, why would you threaten me? Liangchen sneered. He sent Dongfang Yuyang's head flying toward one of the balls of light. Lingshan, here you go. That ball of light had turned dim, revealing Ye Lingshan. Her eyes flew open. After that, Ye Lingshan's sword came flying out of its sheath. Cold light slashed down. No! Regretfully, with just his head and his power suppressed by Liangchen, Dongfang Yuyang could only watch as Ye Lingshan's sword fell upon him. His head then exploded, with even his Yuan spirit being wiped out of existence. Yuyang! The Dongfang family had let out a heart-wrenching cry. Dongfang Yuyang had died. Ye Lingshan's sword had exterminated all hope for the Dongfang family. Boom! At this moment, the world gate finally slammed shut. The balls of light around everyone opened, and the world wall faded. Liangchen, I told you that I would make you live a life worse than death. Ye Liangchen roared. His third eye suddenly opened. Everyone instantly thought of the tortoise elder of the sea demon race who had been injured by this bizarre attack. Suddenly, Liangchen unleashed a punch, and countless stars enveloped his fist. It was the same fist that had broken Dongfang Yuyang's defenses. While at first it seemed like he was striking nothing but air, when his punch reached its end, they saw a sharp blade filled with stars appear and strike Liangchen's fist. Boom! The void exploded and fragments of star light flew through the air. Huge ripples spread, causing the void to collapse wherever they went. If you want to get revenge, then come. As long as you're not afraid of dying, that is. 6-star battle armor. Liangchen's furious roar came from within those violent ripples. It was impossible to see him, but it suddenly felt as if the world had grown heavier and then lighter. Everyone had felt like a giant boulder had been crushing them, and just as they resisted, the boulder vanished. They started floating into the sky. Everyone was startled. What kind of domain was this? It was so strange. However, before they could grow accustomed to this new lightness, a terrifying astral wind unfurled. Everyone instinctively summoned their manifestations to block this astral wind. They stared in shock. At this moment, they saw a figure with a giant divine ring. The 6 colors were like the heavens, while the 6 stars were like the earth. Liangchen appeared like the master of the world, with a pillar of light shooting out of him, blasting apart the clouds. The dark dusk that had covered the martial heaven continent was blown away, revealing the stars. The stars were like a sea reflecting the heavens. Beneath the dome of the sky was 1 man and 1 divine ring. When 6 stars revolved, the divine ring shook the very universe. Just at this moment, a figure silently appeared behind Liangchen. Hence, Chu Jianying hastily cried out, "Liangchen, watch out!" Everyone was shocked to find that one of the tortoise sea demon elders had attacked. Using a strange thorn in his hand, he stabbed toward Liangchen's back. His sudden appearance was extremely bizarre, as it was impossible to sense him. He smiled sinisterly. However, just at that moment, Liangchen's figure vanished. When the elder saw that what he had stabbed was nothing more than an afterimage, his expression stiffened. "I'll send you to see your young master." Liangchen's voice rang out behind him, and his fist landed squarely on the tortoise shell. Boom! The tortoise shell exploded and bloody mist filled the air. An expert above the Nether Passage realm had been killed in one blow in front of everyone's shocked gazes. Countless eyes were locked onto Liangchen, unable to believe what they were seeing. An expert above Nether Passage had just been killed in one blow? The fact that Ye Liangchen was able to silently injure that expert had shocked them. But Liangchen was even more exaggerated, blasting him apart with one punch. For a moment, everyone was silent. They could only stare as the bloody mist fell and dispersed. That was the final brilliance of an expert above Nether Passage. It was exceptionally bright and spectacular. Taoist Heavenly Feather shook her head, lightly saying, "The sea demon race has a short-term memory. Ye Liangchen didn't kill that guy, instead injuring him as a warning. He didn't realize though that sovereign sprouts possessed the power to fight across realms. If he was not on guard, they could kill him. After that, he wanted to use his realm advantage to trick Liangchen's senses and capture him. Considering that he was suppressing his aura, even though the tortoise race specializes in defense, he couldn't endure an attack from Liangchen. Not even 10 lives would have been enough." Through Taoist Heavenly Feather's explanation, everyone realized that he had been vainly trying to capture Liangchen. Considering his full power had been suppressed, it was understandable how he could be killed in one blow. The other tortoise elders suddenly began to shine, and that light transformed the world's heavenly Tao energy. It became foreign, as if the heavenly Tao energy had now given themselves to a master. After that, the tortoise elder roared and attacked Liangchen. The laws of heaven and earth were compressed under his palm, and multicolored runes enveloped it. Those runes contained metal, wood, water, fire, and earth energies. In this world, no one was capable of controlling so many different energies at the same time because the different energies would suppress each other. One slip-up would instantly cause a backlash. However, this tortoise elder's palm was clearly covered by those energies. In fact, those energies seemed to be supporting him of their own accord. As a result, the void rumbled and a huge palm image appeared, covering heaven and earth. At this moment, the earth began to sink. This palm seemed to possess the power to destroy the land. This is the power of those above Nether Passage? With the wave of his hand, all the Taos are summoned. It is one with the will of heaven and earth. How could anyone block this palm? Startled cries rang out. The death of the other elder of the sea demon race had infuriated this tortoise elder. In his fury, he directly unleashed a full power attack, not giving a damn about Liangchen's life or death. However, even in the face of this berserk attack, Liangchen merely snorted. He then unleashed his own palm. Had he gone mad? Everyone was startled. Liangchen was definitely crazy to face the attack directly. Boom! The two palms crashed together, shaking the land and the stars, but the intense explosion everyone was expecting didn't occur. The space surrounding Liangchen and the elder was covered in black cracks. Countless black ripples were surging around them. Within that mass of chaos, Liangchen appeared completely emotionless, while the tortoise elder was filled with shock. Even as runes lit up on his shell and the veins on his arm bulged, he was unable to shake Liangchen. Both of their energies were concentrated on one point, and black ripples continued to flicker around them, emitting a terrifying pressure. He actually blocked it. Jaws dropped. Liangchen was able to receive the full power attack of an expert above Nether Passage, and seemingly without any effort at that. Using world energy to make up for the difference in realms. How shocking! Taoist Heavenly Feather mumbled to herself, nodding in praise. Of everyone present, perhaps only she was able to see that Liangchen's current power stemmed from his world energy. After reaching the 12th heaven stage of Nether Passage, Liangchen had finally learned how to perfectly control his world energy. He now knew how to link together his astral spaces with his 6-star battle armor. Not only did this allow his power to soar, but it also gave him unprecedented control over that power. Furthermore, on the Martial Heaven continent, he clearly felt that it was no longer such a burden to summon the 6-star battle armor. Although there were still some sharp pains throughout his body, it wasn't the same as in the star-field divine world when his flesh was literally exploding off of him. One reason was due to the increase in his realm, But another reason seemed to be that the martial heaven continent's laws were more suited to the 9-star hegemon body art. In this state, Liangchen didn't even need to draw out the life energy of the heavenly Qilin demon trees. He could maintain this state easily, filling him with greater confidence. In front of countless shocked gazes, Liangchen was facing the sea demon race's elder. Black runes whirled around them, emitting a space-tearing sound. Although no one got close to the battlefield, they could still sense the apocalyptic power contained within those black runes. After a while, Liangchen narrowed his eyes and looked at the black runes around him. He suddenly smiled. I understand. To become one with the spirit of the world in order to control the laws, to use life and death to merge into the heavenly Daos. My guess is that the next realm is called the Heaven Merging Realm. When the name of the Heaven Merging Realm came out of Liangchen's mouth, Chu Jianying, the old man, and the other experts of the senior generation twitched. At this moment, the void up in the sky was torn open, and a giant black sword mercilessly slashed down toward Liangchen. It's over. Chu Jianying bitterly closed her eyes. Liangchen was never smart around her. Why did he have to be smart enough to guess the name of this realm? This was a forbidden name. The first person in every generation to spit it out would face the wrath of the heavens. In every generation, some people died because their mouths were too loose. This time, it was Liangchen. In that instant, the world froze and no one could move. Heavenly Tao energy flooded the air, and people could only watch as that black sword fell. That black sword contained the might of the heavens and represented the will of the world. In front of it, people appeared insignificant, and they couldn't even form an urge to resist. This was a power that sparked despair. This was the wrath of the heavens. If the heavenly Daos wanted to kill a person, no one could avoid it. So when Liangchen said the name of the Heaven Merging Realm, everyone's heart turned cold. At this moment, the black sword slashed down, and Liangchen as well as the tortoise elder were both devoured by it. As a result, a bottomless hole appeared in the ground where the black sword fell. Even the walls of this hole had turned black, emitting a destructive aura. Fuck, did I say something wrong? Liangchen's curse rang out from within that black hole, shocking everyone. They saw him safe and sound. The wrath of the heavens has been dodged? How is that possible? No one can escape such a thing. Seeing Liangchen still standing there, everyone was stunned. This was in defiance of an iron rule. Chu Jianying and the others were overjoyed to see this, especially Li Tianxian. He was the one who was aware that Liangchen would very likely die to the heavenly Daos, so that attack just now had been truly frightening. I didn't think that you actually have some ability. It just so happens that I, Ye Liangchen, don't kill nameless nobodies. Only now are you worth me killing. Ye Liangchen stepped forward, appearing in front of Liangchen in an instant and sending a kick at Liangchen's face. Right at the start, Ye Liangchen already used an insulting attack. It was unknown if he truly didn't care about Liangchen or if he was simply trying to antagonize him. A loser also dares to say such big words? If you didn't flee like a dog back then, you would have long since died to heavenly tribulation. Are you a pig with no memory? Sneered Liangchen. In the face of Ye Liangchen's kick, Liangchen didn't move to receive it. If he received it, then he would be truly humiliated. Instead, he flicked a finger, and a small blood-colored lotus flew out at Ye Liangchen. It was very small, the size of a longan fruit. Despite that, it contained a terrifying power, as this miniature lotus was the World Extermination Flame Lotus. Using Liangchen's essence blood plus Linger's soul essence as a foundation, it was instantly condensed. This was a technique that Linger had learned after absorbing the myriad flames within the star-field divine world. Although this attack didn't possess the full power of the World Extermination Flame Lotus, its killing power could be said to be even greater due to its brief casting time. Even a peak expert could be killed in an instant if caught off guard. 63 stars floated above the lotus. This was a 7-star World Extermination Flame Lotus. It was particularly strong because Linger had fully recovered thanks to the Mother Tree's help. She was even absorbing the karmic hell flames to strengthen herself further. At this moment, Ye Liangchen was startled to sense immense danger from this small lotus. However, he was already unleashing his kick, and if he dodged, it would cost him the initiative. Seeing no other way around it, he summoned his manifestation. Stars illuminate the cosmos. A field of stars appeared behind Ye Liangchen. Those millions of stars seemed to even pack the dome of the heavens within them. Boom! Ye Liangchen's foot slammed into Liangchen's flame lotus. Flames unfurled, devouring the heavens. The flame lotus exploded and flames ignited the world. After that, countless runes appeared in the air, burning. The laws of the heavenly Taos can also be ignited? What kind of flame is this? Startled cries rang out. The laws of flames were contained within the laws of the heavenly Taos. In other words, they were under restrictions. However, the laws of the heavenly Taos around Ye Liangchen were now burning. The flames of this world cannot possibly burn the laws. The only possibility, then, is that these flames come from a different world, guessed one expert. The flames unfurled, filling the air. Within those flames, they saw a figure rapidly retreating. It was Ye Liangchen. Ye Liangchen had shattered the world extermination flame lotus, but he himself was blown back by its explosive power. At this moment, his right foot was covered in flames, which only slowly extinguished after a few seconds. He snorted. So you have a few tricks. These flames aren't bad, but they can't do anything to me. The stars behind Ye Liangchen revolved. It was as if he existed within the cosmos. As the river of stars flowed, limitless energy flowed toward him. With this power, he could suppress the karmic hell flames that could otherwise burn any other expert. Hence, it could be seen that Ye Liangchen's wild arrogance had true power to back it up. Standing there, the laws of the heavenly Taos prostrated themselves toward him. Stars illuminate the cosmos. This is a manifestation from the immortal era, one that has reached the divine rankings and is ranked 36th. I didn't expect that I would get to see such a manifestation in my lifetime, sighed Taoist Heavenly Feather. Senior, what is so amazing about this manifestation? Asked Chu Jianying. Everyone else's ears perked up. In truth, there are many starry manifestations but only one amongst the divine rankings. However, it is split into two names. One is called Stars Illuminate the Cosmos, while the other is called Stars Move the Cosmos. The former refers to laws, the latter refers to power. However, these are just legends passed down from that time. We'll only know the truth if we keep watching, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Senior's knowledge is admirable. Everyone sighed inside. Taoist Heavenly Feather was truly a godlike existence. It was as if there was nothing in this world that she didn't know. Most curious of all, the rumors had been that Taoist Heavenly Feather's cultivation base was only at the peak of Nether Passage. However, now that more people had reached that realm, they were still unable to sense her cultivation base. Her aura had always been flat, as if she was a mortal who didn't know how to cultivate. Yet, it also felt like that of a supreme expert who had comprehended life, death, and samsara. It was impossible to see through her. However, whatever her cultivation base was, her position, character, and learning had always been extremely admirable and respectable. That was why the Dongfang family head's provocation toward her had drawn the ire of so many people. With this explanation from Taoist Heavenly Feather, everyone stared closely at the two people in the sky. A battle on this level was something that might not occur once in many generations, so they had to watch closely. Those memories would be a precious experience for their descendants. Two people stood in the air, one with a river of stars behind him and the other with a divine ring. Both of them were blazing with killing intent. Ye Liangchen, you stole the lead this time, but if you can't handle him within an incense stick's worth of time, I will have to make my move, said Jiang Wuchen coldly. He was one step slower than Ye Liangchen, but considering his status, there was no way he would attack now. Two sovereign sprouts attacking the same person? No matter how that was explained, it would be considered a loss of face. He would then be turned into a laughingstock of the divine families. He couldn't interfere. Thus, he gave Ye Liangchen a warning. An incense stick's worth of time? Are you looking down on me or overestimating him? If I wanted to kill him, It wouldn't take the slightest effort. Ye Liangchen was suddenly interrupted by a hand reaching out of the void. It swung in a beautiful arc to strike his arrogant face. Immediately, Ye Liangchen's face distorted from the slap. The light of the stars around his face was shattered, and he shot back along with a sharp shriek, slamming into the ground. A large hole appeared in the ground, and giant cracks spread far into the distance. Only now did Liangchen's figure reappear. I've had enough of your unchanging act. Let's not waste words. Whoever wants to kill me can come at me together. When have I ever been afraid of anyone? Shouted Liangchen, his voice filled with unquestionable domineeringness. Everyone was dumbfounded by this sudden turn of events. One moment, Ye Liangchen had appeared exceptionally domineering, but in the next instant he was sent flying by a slap to the face. Furthermore, Liangchen had truly been impossibly fast. His movement looked like teleportation, as there wasn't the slightest ripple in space whatsoever. Teleportation was just a saying for a kind of instant transportation. In the minds of most people, teleportation was the result of pushing speed to the pinnacle, making it look like instant movement. However, that was not entirely true. Just like transportation formations, teleportation required folding the world. By finding the correct spatial node and accurately calculating the positions, it was possible to shuttle through space. The difference was that no matter how fast you were, you had to accumulate energy. That would give a sign to your opponent that you were about to make a move. On the other hand, true teleportation was said to only be possible for those above nether passage. In the heaven-merging realm, perhaps some people could come into contact with the profundities of space. The tortoise elder that had launched a sneak attack at Liangchen had used a kind of teleportation art to catch Liangchen off guard. However, at that time, people hadn't had time to be shocked by that technique before he was killed by Liangchen. The death of a heaven-merging expert had caused people to overlook his teleportation technique. Therefore, now that Liangchen was also using a teleportation technique to strike Ye Liangchen, everyone was dumbfounded. After that, Liangchen vanished once more, reappearing in front of Jiang Wuchen. He smoothly slapped Jiang Wuchen across the face as well, sending him flying. What? Liangchen had slapped the faces of 2 sovereign sprouts. He was truly heaven-defying. Because Liangchen's speed was so fast, he appeared like a phantom, and even 2 sovereign sprouts couldn't dodge his slaps. How can there be teleportation within the Nether Passage realm? Demanded an elder from the neutral faction, stunned. He was an elder who had reached the level of being called a living fossil. His cultivation base had also reached the heaven-merging realm. However, it was because he had reached this realm that he was so shocked. Even amongst those who could reach the heaven-merging realm, not everyone could comprehend a teleportation art. This elder knew that the tortoise elder's teleportation art was the result of a teleportation art merging with his innate divine ability. It was not a pure teleportation art. However, what Liangchen was using was clearly a pure teleportation art. If someone as powerful as this elder could only grasp the slightest superficial understanding of such a technique, how could Liangchen freely use it? That was unbelievable. The heaven-merging realm refers to becoming one with the heavenly Daos. At that level, you must be able to control space and spatial laws as they are part of the heavenly Daos. However, that does not mean that you must wait until the heaven-merging realm to control space. As long as you possess a domain you are in absolute control of, you can do the same, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. After hearing this, the elder bowed toward Taoist Heavenly Feather. Many thanks for clearing up the confusion. This junior is too foolish. Even within my manifestation domain, I cannot accomplish teleportation. The elder was actually calling himself a junior in front of Taoist Heavenly Feather. Hence, the entire scene looked like an old man bowing toward a young woman. Taoist Heavenly Feather shook her head. Although the world of a manifestation can be considered a kind of domain, a manifestation is still a manifestation. It is not a true world as the laws inside are incomplete. Furthermore, when it is unleashed, it will clash with the laws of the martial heaven continent. Naturally, there is no way to be in complete control of the spatial laws to teleport. What Liangchen is using to teleport is not his manifestation but his own power. After that, The elder suddenly came to a realization and bowed deeply toward Taoist Heavenly Feather to express his thanks. Boom! The earth exploded, and two figures charged toward Liangchen at the same time. "I'll slaughter you!" Both Ye Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen roared at Liangchen. At the same time, Jiang Wuchen summoned his manifestation, and a berserk roar rang out as the world darkened. Jiang Wuchen's manifestation was a towering black ape that beat its chest with its fist, unleashing a violent roar. With every beat of its chest, the world shuddered. Every beat made people feel like their own hearts would beat out of their chests. Another manifestation of the immortal era, Ape King roars at the 9 heavens, ranked 33rd on the divine manifestation rankings, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Everyone was startled. Jiang Wuchen's manifestation was ranked even higher than Ye Liangchen's. Could he be even stronger than Ye Liangchen? As two sovereign sprouts attacked Liangchen at the same time, their power caused the world to change color. Two manifestations on the level of the divine rankings raged. Right now, all the experts present had retreated, afraid of being drawn into this terrifying current. The Dragon Blood warriors stood in the air, clenching their fists. They knew that their boss was giving a display of power by challenging two sovereign sprouts at once. Liangchen had said that the current Dragon Blood Legion had been forced to the point of no return. If they wanted to survive, they had to launch a counterattack. They had to forcibly open a path of living within the chaotic tide. Hence, the Dragon Blood warriors' blood had long since started boiling. They were prepared for a huge battle. As their leader, Liangchen couldn't retreat. Facing two sovereign sprouts, he spread his hands. Boom! The three figures clashed together at the same time, unleashing an explosion of divine light. The blinding light was the result of multicolored runes exploding. They emitted a blinding light like the sun. When the light slowly faded, it was possible to see three vague figures within. From their general outlines, it was possible to tell who they were. Jiang Wuchen's giant body made him very easy to recognize, but Ye Liangchen and Liangchen's figures weren't so easy to tell apart. However, since two of them were attacking one person, the person at the center had to be Liangchen. What happened with Liangchen? How can he block the attacks of two sovereign sprouts by himself? Everyone was startled to see this. It seemed that Liangchen had undergone a heaven-toppling transformation in the star-field divine world. Three people were clashing against each other, and berserk energy was constantly exploding from their palms, bursting out like sharp blades, shredding the void around them. "Break!" Liangchen suddenly roared. At this moment, his six-color divine ring rapidly spun, and power exploded out of his palms like a volcano. With a final explosion, Jiang Wuchen and Ye Liangchen were knocked back. Jiang Wuchen retreated 4 steps, each step causing the void to shatter like ice. Meanwhile, the ground beneath him exploded, unable to bear that power. As for Ye Liangchen, he was directly sent flying. His manifestation shuddered, attempting to stabilize him but failing. Even 1 against 2, Liangchen could force back his opponents. He actually had the advantage against 2 sovereign sprouts. Aotian was startled, not having expected Liangchen to be so powerful. However, now that things had reached this point, there was no way this battle would end anytime soon. After all, Liangchen had just slapped the faces of 2 sovereign sprouts. There was no way they would take that lying down. Even an ordinary person wouldn't be able to accept such humiliation, let alone prideful sovereign sprouts like Ye Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen. At this moment, Ye Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen were ashen, killing intent exploding out of them. Ye Liangchen shouted, "Get out of the way. I'll kill him. He's mine." "You scram." Jiang Wuchen reached out and grabbed the giant hatchet behind him. Despite the hatchet not attacking yet, its sharp aura had sliced through the void. Jiang Wuchen was fully enraged now. Liangchen's slap was extremely humiliating, making him feel like he was going insane. Boom! Jiang Wuchen was like a wild magical beast charging toward Liangchen. He was wielding his hatchet, which was a divine item with an exceedingly ancient history. Its fierce aura caused a rumbling that made people feel like their souls would flee. "You scram. His life belongs to me." Ye Liangchen also attacked and a sword appeared in his hand. His sword had countless star patterns along it, as if millions of stars had been condensed inside of it. You want to kill me? Just the two of you? Liangchen snorted and evil moon appeared in his hand. With a single step, he appeared in front of the charging Ye Liangchen and unleashed a slash. What? Liangchen's attack was identical to Ye Liangchen's. His saber was slashing at his opponent's head just like Ye Liangchen's sword. There was no feint or trick. Liangchen was truly undergoing a suicidal exchange with Ye Liangchen. Was Liangchen trying to force him to change moves midway? Ye Liangchen twitched. This was clearly an attempt at forcing him to concede and retreat, which would allow Liangchen to grasp the initiative. As a result, Ye Liangchen turned his sword. He had no choice but to switch to defense because he had no confidence in blocking Liangchen's attack with something else. Evil Moon then slashed heavily into Ye Liangchen's sword, sending him back several steps. One unleashed a full-strength attack, while the other was forced to switch techniques midway. Ye Liangchen was naturally at a disadvantage. Most shocking of all, he realized that a portion of his power was sucked away by Liangchen. How is that possible? Ye Liangchen found this difficult to believe, as his astral energy came from his manifestation. Only he was able to control this power. If anyone else tried to absorb it, the curse of the stars would kill them. Die! Just at that moment, Jiang Wuchen's hatchet fell. This attack had been accumulating power this entire time, so it possessed the power to topple mountains and invert the seas. Go fuck yourself. Liangchen swept his saber out, not forgetting to add a few words. A sinister aura exploded out of Evil Moon. At this moment, two divine items crashed together with shooting stars, and a huge explosion boomed. Intense sound waves spread through the air. As a result, some disciples with weaker cultivation bases held their ears as blood flowed out of them. The only sound they could hear was that booming sound, and they couldn't even hear their own screams. Some disciples even directly fainted. The sound waves possessed a strange law to them, so even though they were at a great distance and at the end of the sound wave, they were still affected. If they were closer, perhaps their souls would directly shatter. In front of countless shocked gazes, Jiang Wuchen tumbled back. This giant seemed powerful, but he seemed inferior to Ye Liangchen. Right now, Jiang Wuchen was shocked and infuriated. He almost spat out blood, but even as it rose into his throat, he forcibly swallowed it back down. Jiang Wuchen clearly sensed that Liangchen's attack just now contained Ye Liangchen's power as well. Did he actually borrow Ye Liangchen's astral energy? Ye Liangchen, what are you doing? Are you lending him your power? Jiang Wuchen roared furiously, blaming Ye Liangchen. Perhaps that way, he could win back some face. Using this method, he was telling anyone that he hadn't lost to Liangchen. It was Ye Liangchen who had loaned Liangchen power. Just now, it had been the two of them together to force him back. Ye Liangchen was still shocked, pondering about how Liangchen had taken his astral energy when he heard Jiang Wuchen's cursing. As a result, his fury soared, but he had no way to explain it. Liangchen truly had borrowed a portion of his power, and Jiang Wuchen's announcement had told everyone that he was the loser in the previous exchange. I told you not to interfere. I'm going to use my full power now, so don't get hurt accidentally. Ye Liangchen snorted, and the river of stars behind him suddenly charged out of his manifestation, transforming into sharp swords. He's a sword cultivator, exclaimed Yu Zifeng. A sword cultivator? Aren't sword cultivators only capable of using sword arts? Asked Guoran and the others. A sword cultivator could only use the sword, so using other magical arts was a blasphemy to the sword. But Ye Liangchen had previously used his fists and only taken out his sword once he had been slapped by Liangchen. Summoning a river of stars to fight was also not the method of a sword cultivator. If it wasn't Yu Zifeng personally making this statement, no one would believe that Ye Liangchen was a sword cultivator. I don't understand either, but his stars contain the will of the sword Dao. These attacks are the result of triggering that will. Look carefully at his sword, said Yu Zifeng. When they focused on Ye Liangchen's sword, they suddenly noticed that the stars within were mimicking the swords being unleashed by his manifestation. Is his sword linked to his manifestation? Hence, he can only unleash his greatest power when his manifestation is fully activated, right? Asked Mingqi. That is most likely the case, said Yu Zifeng. Everyone sucked in a cold gasp of air. If that was true, then Ye Liangchen's strongest state was when those millions of stars were fully activated. Even in his current state, none of them could match him. If he activated all those stars in his manifestation, who could fight him? At this time, Star Sword streaked toward Liangchen, and he repeatedly swung Evil Moon, blasting them apart. Swords rained down around him, leaving glossy holes in the ground and enveloping him. On the other hand, Jiang Wuchen stood still and watched. After a moment of hesitation, he coldly said, "You still have half an incense stick's worth of time." Although Jiang Wuchen was also angry, attacking Liangchen now would end up with him clashing with Ye Liangchen. So he chose to endure briefly. "Liangchen, you had better endure this. You can't die to his hands, or I, Jiang Wuchen, will kill everyone connected to you," shouted Jiang Wuchen. Suddenly, lightning exploded out of Liangchen. At some point, the void had been filled with lightning runes. They had been hidden before, but now they appeared, transforming the battlefield into a sea of lightning. So that's what was going on. When the sea of lightning appeared, the question that everyone had been pondering was answered. This was how Liangchen was teleporting. He had a lightning domain present that none of them had noticed before. His control over this lightning had reached a practically perfect level to be able to hide it from everyone. The spatial pressure of the battle had increased with the intensity of the fighting, affecting these runes. Hence, he had to increase their power if he wanted to continue teleporting, but this decision would expose them. When those lightning runes appeared, Liangchen's body vanished and he escaped Ye Liangchen's lock, essentially exposing his teleportation secret. However, just as he vanished, Jiang Wuchen's heart turned cold. His hair suddenly stood on end as a sensation of death filled him. After that, he instinctively shot forward and raised his hatchet behind him as a shield. Boom! Evil Moon then slammed into the hatchet, exploding with power. Being unable to block the intensity of the clash, Jiang Wuchen coughed up a mouthful of blood and slammed into the ground, raising a giant wave of earth. "Since you want to die so badly, I'll help you out." Killing intent blazed within Liangchen's eyes. His divine ring suddenly changed. Now, 3 of the colors were spinning clockwise, while the other 3 spun counterclockwise. 6 stars lit up within his divine ring. Light shot out of the Feng Fu star to the Alioth, Life, Fate, Enlightenment Palace, Divine Gate, and Nethergate stars, before finally returning to the Feng Fu star, creating a 6-point star. When that 6-point star appeared, Liangchen's blood chi was fully activated, and a berserk power caused the world to shudder. A domineering will fill the air. "Boss is finally unleashing his full power," exclaimed Guoran. Liangchen had been fully enraged by Jiang Wuchen. Suddenly, Liangchen swung Evil Moon at the earth, striking Jiang Wuchen, who was just climbing out of the ground. Jiang Wuchen could feel the world freeze as if a star was crashing toward him. Even before the attack reached him, the pressure made him feel like his body would explode. Jiang Wuchen was shocked. Due to leaving Liangchen to Ye Liangchen, he hadn't fully activated his manifestation. Also, he hadn't expected Ye Liangchen to allow Liangchen to escape his lock. That was why he was now at a disadvantage. Sensing the lethal power of Liangchen's saber, Jiang Wuchen let out a roar, and a rune lit up on his forehead. At the same time, the giant ape king in his manifestation also roared, an identical rune appearing on its forehead. Boom! However, before he could accumulate his energy, Liangchen's saber had arrived. Both of them crashed through the earth. The earth trembled and shook, completely deforming. A giant bubble of earth rose out of the ground. Bang! That giant bubble finally exploded, sending a mass of rubble in every direction. At this moment, Jiang Wuchen's figure appeared, flying back. Jiang Wuchen is injured. Everyone saw that a foot-long wound had appeared on Jiang Wuchen's chest. His white robes were now stained with blood. It was unknown if it was because all sovereign sprouts wore white robes, but the look of those robes always made them appear rather spiritual and graceful. However, Jiang Wuchen's giant body was unable to give off the same effect. He looked more like a monkey wearing white robes, and it gave off an extremely jarring feeling. Through the cut in his white robes, people saw black under armor beneath. However, even this armor had been cut apart. I really dislike it when people threaten me. A dragon has a reverse scale. If it is touched, it will draw its fury. Since you lack any sense of respect, let's fight with our lives on the line. We'll see whose life is tougher. Longchen's figure appeared and a wicked aura accumulated around him. Everyone could see his black robes flapping in a wild wind and the icy killing intent in his eyes. His back was bent slightly like a leopard staring at his prey, about to unleash a fatal blow. Just at this moment, star swords came shooting toward Longchen once more. However, Ye Liangchen couldn't unleash all the stars within his manifestation at once. It seemed that every star needed to attack once in order to fully activate his manifestation. At this moment, a young lady suddenly appeared behind Longchen. She was wrapped in flames, and flame runes revolved in her eyes. She was forming hand seals. Raging flames devour the heavens. Linger's voice was melodious like an oriole, but her attack was not so warm. Thanks to the help of the Mother Tree and Lingshan, Linger had fully merged with the Daos of the thousands of flames within the star-field divine world. She now possessed a level of control over all kinds of flames. A normal flame cultivator first learned how to control techniques and hand seals before trying to control flames. But Linger was a spirit of fire, so she didn't need to learn all that. Over the years, Longchen had given her various treasures, raising her spirituality. Because of this, she knew all kinds of techniques. Furthermore, through hand seals, she could use her flame energy to draw out the world's flame energy, merging the two. That raised her power to the peak and saved her a great deal of energy. During her final days in the star-field divine world, Linger had spent all her time training hand seals. Moreover, those hand seals were not taught to her by Longchen. They were things that she comprehended herself. Others went from outside in, but Linger was the opposite. Rather than the normal path of flame cultivators, she used her flames to make hand seals, not the other way around. At this moment, flames burst forth and giant flame dragons crashed into the star swords. The flame dragons and star swords exploded when they met. Who is she? I've never seen her before. People were startled to see a new character who was capable of blocking Ye Liangchen's swords. Even if those swords were just a process of Ye Liangchen fully activating his manifestation, every single one of them possessed the power to kill an Empyrean at the peak of the Nether Passage realm. With tens of thousands of them flying through the air at once, even a peak heavenly genius would find it difficult to block them. How was this girl that they had never seen before capable of receiving them so easily? Linger, help me block him. Don't let him interfere, said Longchen. All right, leave him to me. Linger smiled. A flame sword appeared in her hand. This was a 3-foot flame sword that was thin and narrow. It looked very delicate. However, as soon as it appeared, the entire battlefield space twisted. As Linger swung her sword, a flame dragon shot out, blasting apart a wave of the star swords. What? Startled cries rang out. This girl was actually able to unleash such an attack. A sea of flames spread through the battlefield, enveloping Ye Liangchen. At that moment, Linger vanished and reappeared in front of Ye Liangchen, unleashing another slash of her sword. That's Longchen's technique. Linger was teleporting as well. Anywhere there were flames, she could freely teleport. Scram! Ye Liangchen slashed with his starry sword. Boom! Ye Liangchen hastily retreated, and people were shocked to find flames burning him. It seemed that his expression wasn't very good. Ye Liangchen found that these flames were not so simple. They were causing his blood qi to surge chaotically, making him feel uneasy. Furthermore, they were capable of even igniting his astral energy. What kind of flames are these? Roared Ye Liangchen. His astral energy had never been affected by any kind of flame before. These unknown flames were shocking. Big brother Liangchen told me not to talk to strangers, so I can't tell you, especially since you're a bad egg who's going against him. Linger shook her head and attacked once more. The sword in her hand was condensed of the purest power of the karmic hell flames. Although the true karmic hell flames had been absorbed and these karmic hell flames were an imitation that lacked their full power, they had at least retained a bit of the karmic hell flames' special abilities. The karmic hell flames were something that even gods were afraid of. If these were the netherworld's true karmic hell flames, Ye Liangchen would already be incinerated. Despite being an imitation, these karmic hell flames were not so simple either. Ye Liangchen's astral energy was being burned, and his manifestation was greatly disturbed. Like this, Ye Liangchen was unable to unleash the full power of his manifestation. You want to stop me? Liangchen, you really are despicable. Then today, I'll kill this little girl of yours. Ye Liangchen sneered. He stopped trying to activate his manifestation and instead attacked directly with his sword. The stars within his sword blazed with light, like it was a river of stars. As it slashed down, space-time was suddenly thrown into chaos. What a terrifying sword! Look at the stars in his manifestation. It seems that 1/10 of them have been activated. If he activates them all, just how powerful will he be? The crowd turned ashen. Now they knew why some geniuses were called sovereign sprouts. They were existences that they couldn't touch. Compared to them, the various geniuses of the martial heaven continent were merely ordinary. The difference was too great. If the sovereign sprouts were already on this level, then just how powerful were actual sovereigns? No wonder it was said that they were undefeatable existences. Their power could not be imagined. At this moment, this sword was slicing through the void, destroying even the surrounding flames. Looking at what was happening, Linger formed hand seals with her left hand as she held her sword in her right hand. After that, images appeared over her fingertips, and flame runes condensed into giant walls before her. In an instant, over 100 flame walls appeared. One-handed seals? Startled cries rang out. Linger had just made over 100 hand seals in the blink of an eye. Was she really human? Every hand seal required the body, heart, and will to work together. There couldn't be the slightest error. To create 7 hand seals in one breath could rank someone amongst geniuses. The strongest record was someone creating 17 hand seals in an instant. That record had never been touched. However, Linger had made over 100 hand seals in an instant, and this completely toppled their understanding of hand seals. They felt like they were going crazy. Having to endure Ye Liangchen's attack, the flame walls were exploding one by one. When the final wall was broken, Linger swung her sword. With a final explosion, Ye Liangchen's attack was shattered. The flame walls had constantly ground down his sword's power. By the time it broke the final wall, it was essentially out of power, so Linger easily destroyed it. Everyone sighed in amazement. They had sensed just how terrifying Ye Liangchen's attack was. This meant that Linger's flame walls were also incredibly powerful. Suddenly, flame runes shuddered and condensed into countless dragons that surrounded Ye Liangchen. After that, Ye Liangchen's sword danced in the air, unleashing streaks of sword chi that destroyed the flame dragons. Looking at this, Linger extended her left hand once more. Her fingers danced as she quickly created hand seals. It was impossible to even see her fingers clearly. As she rapidly formed hand seals, more flame dragons appeared within the sea of flames. Following that, the people heard the roars of various beasts. Then flame swords, flame sabers, flame spears, flame chains. The flame runes condensed into countless weapons and beasts, all attacking Ye Liangchen. Ye Liangchen's sword was fast, but Linger's speed with which she formed hand seals was even faster. Her attacks came in an unending stream. Furthermore, her flame energy continued to spread, and the world's flame energy was rapidly being summoned here. A giant flame domain was constantly growing around Linger and Ye Liangchen. At this moment, various flame manifestations were constantly attacking Ye Liangchen. Weapons, beasts, prisons, mountains, countless shapes and forms attacked. Is she really human? People stared at Linger in shock. What is going on? Am I going crazy? Senior, please help explain things to us, begged an elder to Taoist Heavenly Feather. Such a thing should theoretically not be spoken of. After all, this was most likely some kind of secret of Linger, something taboo for others to know. But seeing Linger rapidly forming hand seals with no pause, these experts were starting to question their own existences. She had formed over 1,000 seals in just a few breaths. This hand seal rate is inhuman. Is there some kind of trick behind it? Others also wished to know what was going on. Amongst all of them, Taoist Heavenly Feather had the highest seniority, the greatest experience, and was the most erudite. Perhaps she was the only one who could know. Taoist Heavenly Feather smiled. You are correct. She truly isn't human. A human cannot do this, not even a sovereign. Then, she is a spirit of fire that has taken human form. Being made of flames, all flame arts are under her control. Her hand seals use her flame energy to draw out the world's flame energy. Countless variations are undergone with the casual turns of her hand. There are flame spirit bodies, ice spirit bodies, but whether they are natural or artificial, they are not true spiritual bodies. Since this girl is a condensation of flames, she has a true spiritual body. There's nothing curious about her being able to use flame arts, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. But she possesses her own soul. She even has bloodline energy. Are we sensing it wrong? Your senses are not wrong. But don't look at me. I've lived for many years, but I have not seen everything. In theory, a fire spirit is the same as ordinary earth flame spirit beasts. They possess a trace of spirituality, but lack spiritual strength. They can condense a form, but lack a bloodline foundation. As for Liangchen's flame spirit, I don't know why she is the same as a person, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Even she was unable to answer everyone's questions. All things had spirits, but there were laws differentiating them. A flame spirit was always low level, and no matter how great its spirituality grew, there was a limit. That was an iron law. However, Linger had broken this iron law. Not only did she look like a person, but she also seemed to possess her own flesh and blood. Her soul was the same case. Her intelligence was an equal match with a human's, and she had even learned hand seals. There was no way to explain this. Explosions constantly rang out from within the flames. Flame runes whirled around, but it was impossible to see Ye Liangchen. Through these explosions, it was clear that he was trying to escape Linger's prison. However, Linger's hand seals changed quickly, and an unending stream of flame arts submerged Ye Liangchen. No matter how he attacked, he was unable to escape her flame domain. Let's see how long you can last. Ye Liangchen's voice rang out from within the flames. It seemed that being trapped by a flame spirit was extremely infuriating for him. But it also seemed that he was helpless to do anything to Linger temporarily. He could only slowly exhaust her. After all, she was currently controlling a giant flame domain that had to use up an enormous amount of energy. She couldn't last forever. Big Brother Liangchen told me that all I had to do was to trap you. I've accomplished my mission. Linger giggled, her face completely pure and innocent. How powerful! She actually managed to trap Ye Liangchen. So Liangchen is in possession of a flame spirit capable of imprisoning a sovereign sprout. Ye Liangchen was most likely too careless. Perhaps he wanted to give a display of power to intimidate others as a stalling tactic. If he could activate another 10th of his stars, perhaps this flame spirit would be unable to trap him. To put it frankly, a square-faced man suddenly shook his head. He tried acting like a badass, only to end up being a dumbass, finished off someone else. I'm not the one to say it. The square-faced man pretended not to know anything, but everyone understood. There was actually someone with such a loose mouth as to say such a thing. The person with the loose mouth also had an urge to slap himself. He had essentially just cursed Ye Liangchen. If Ye Liangchen learned of it, he would lose his life. Hence, he glared at the square-faced man, cursing him for leaving this hole for him to jump into. But he could only blame himself for directly jumping in. Careful! Suddenly, a startled cry interrupted them. A saber image descended from the heavens. and everyone hastily dodged to the side. Boom. The saber image slashed a narrow and deep ditch in the ground. Unfortunately, one expert was rather slow and was cut by the wind. Cracks covered his entire body, and he instantly grew still, afraid of moving an inch. After that, a wood element expert extended a hand, sending life energy into his body. This third step nether passage expert slowly began to recover. The people beside him involuntarily gulped. They felt their throats turn dry and their bodies turn cold. Just the wind from the saber image was enough to almost kill them. Just how powerful was the real attack? They looked over, but there were too many flames to see. They were unable to see anything. This saber that had descended from the heavens had truly been frightening. I feel like we should find a different place to watch from. This place doesn't have good feng shui, proposed one person before fleeing. The flames here blocked their sight, so they couldn't see what was happening with Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen. Hence, they were unable to dodge their attacks in time. If it hadn't been for that timely warning, who knew how many of them would have died just now? With Linger blocking Ye Liangchen, Liangchen was going all out. His 6-star battle armor was at full power. Is Liangchen injured? The people who retreated and managed to get a view from around the sea of flames saw Liangchen covered in blood. They were startled to see this, but they were even more shocked to see Jiang Wuchen. He had grown even larger than before. He looked like a giant devil ape. Every swing of his hatchet possessed enough power to shatter stars. Jiang Wuchen had used some unknown technique, and his eyes had turned scarlet. Those were no longer the eyes of a human. He was like a wild beast. At this moment, Jiang Wuchen's body was covered in a dozen wounds. Every one of those wounds was deep enough that they could see bone. Blood was splashing out of both of them as they fought. The most shocking thing was that as their focus had been on Linger, something had happened to cause Jiang Wuchen's aura to slowly fall. Meanwhile, Liangchen's aura was as fierce as ever. Boom! Liangchen's saber slammed into Jiang Wuchen's hatchet, knocking it aside and giving him the space to land a kick on Jiang Wuchen's jaw. A cracking sound rang out. What happened during this time? Jiang Wuchen activated his manifestation and transformed into a monster, but he still can't beat Liangchen. Furthermore, it seems that his mind is affected, allowing Liangchen to injure him multiple times. If it was anyone else, they would probably have been hacked to death already. The spectators were now spread all around the battlefield. Some people were entirely focused on Liangchen and ignored the fight between Linger and Ye Liangchen. After breaking Jiang Wuchen's jaw, Liangchen slashed Evil Moon at Jiang Wuchen's head without hesitation. However, a golden sword appeared in his way, blocking him. Feng Fei. Feng Fei was actually joining in the fight as she was from the same family as Jiang Wuchen. However, by interfering now, did that not signify that Jiang Wuchen had lost? Sparks flew. Feng Fei was actually blown back, and her manifestation shuddered, seemingly on the verge of collapse. Feng Fei was startled by this. Only upon blocking Liangchen's attack did she truly grasp just how powerful he was. The power contained within his saber only erupted the instant it made contact with its target. This saber contained a domineering will that had almost shattered her manifestation. If her manifestation shattered, she would lose her heavenly Tao energy, and that would leave her open to be killed by Liangchen. Feng Fei had no choice but to interfere. In her eyes, Jiang Wuchen had already lost. Liangchen's attacks were bizarre, and the injuries he caused could not be healed by heavenly Tao energy. Although Liangchen was also covered in blood, that was caused entirely by himself. He was unable to perfectly handle the power of the 9-star hegemon body art, resulting in his body slowly tearing itself apart. As those injuries were not given to him by Jiang Wuchen, Feng Fei couldn't allow Jiang Wuchen's defeat to look too terrible. 2 against 1, 3 against 1, it doesn't matter. Liangchen snorted and raised Evil Moon once more. His killing intent did not flag at all. Jiang Wuchen had used his family to threaten him, and he could not endure this. Phoenix roams the heavens. Feng Fei was rapidly forming hand seals and condensed her manifestation. After that, a brilliant phoenix cry rang out. A phoenix then came flying out of her manifestation, unleashing rainbow light that dyed the world in its color. As soon as it appeared, any who looked at it felt a sharp pain in their souls. The phoenix cry shook their minds. What a powerful soul art! Meng Qi's expression changed. She could sense just how terrifying this attack was. This phoenix was not as simple as just being part of her manifestation. It possessed its own will. The phoenix spread its wings and charged at Liangchen. Runes lit up on its body, and a strange sound filled the air. Ah! Countless disciples screamed, clutching their heads. That sound was like iron nails scraping each other. It wasn't a loud sound, but it pierced their ears and into the depths of their souls. Don't try the same trick against me twice. The star in Liangchen's divine ring that represented the divine gate star suddenly blazed with light. Light also exploded out of Evil Moon as Liangchen's spiritual strength erupted. Boom! Evil Moon slashed down. The divine gate star shuddered, supporting Evil Moon with its power. In front of everyone's shocked gazes, Feng Fei's giant phoenix was cleanly cut in two. A miserable shriek rang out through the air. This terrifying phoenix was a soul art, not a true physical body. However, it was still cleaved in two by Liangchen's saber. As a result, Feng Fei instantly turned as pale as paper. Blood flowed out of her mouth, and the phoenix's mournful cry rang out as it fell from the sky. At this moment, Feng Fei was filled with disbelief. Last time, she had used this move in an attempt to suppress Liangchen in front of the headquarters of the ancient family alliance. However, that had provoked Liangchen's divine gate star, resulting in a fierce counterattack that ended with both of them injured. Feng Fei had ended up treating that time as a mystery, but she hadn't cared particularly because she had not used her full power. At that time, this technique had still been in an embryonic state. Its power was now many times greater. This attack contained a phoenix's soul essence that she used her soul to nourish. It was a priceless treasure of the divine families, something unique with no duplicate even within the divine families. In her youth, this strand of soul essence had been placed in her soul to be raised as her most loyal house pet. When she used this soul art, the phoenix's soul essence supported it. Such a soul art contained the divine might of a phoenix, making it an incredibly powerful move. However, even such a powerful move was cut in two by Liangchen. Her phoenix soul essence was injured. Last time you were so forceful. I didn't know how to use soul arts, nor did I wish to expose my trump cards because of you. That's the only reason you managed to injure me. This is the constant look of the divine families, arrogant idiots who think the world belongs to them. I give you face, but you don't give face. The big picture, the lives of the world, righteousness, you don't care about any of them. By blaming us for all these when we don't listen to your orders, are you taking us for fools? Since you don't want to get along, we can all just trap ourselves. We'll see who dies first. Liangchen stepped forward and slashed Evil Moon at Feng Fei once more. In the distance, Aotian's expression darkened. Liangchen's cursing had included him as well. He then narrowed his eyes. The Long family had sent him in order to form a good relationship with Liangchen. The Long family's higher-ups had already figured out Liangchen's character. He was someone who repaid debts. As long as they gave him a favor, they could easily get closer. If Aotian could pull Liangchen in, it would be equivalent to pulling in the Dragonblood Legion, the Martial Heaven Alliance, and the Shen Beasts as well. However, Aotian had his own pride, and he was resistant to helping Liangchen. That was because Liangchen had snubbed their faces back in the day. Furthermore, Aotian didn't really care about the Martial Heaven Continent's people. He didn't think there was anyone useful amongst them that could help him. But since the family head had ordered him, he had no choice but to come. He knew that this was not something only involving him. It implicated the competition between all four families. Although he was unwilling, he still had to come. However, he hadn't expected that Liangchen wouldn't even give him a chance to interfere. Liangchen's power was truly stunning. He had been standing in the distance the entire time, just waiting for Liangchen to fall into crisis so that he could save Liangchen. That was the order that the Long family head had given him. Unfortunately, Liangchen's arrogance greatly displeased him. Liangchen was publicly challenging the divine families, and this further antagonized him. Boom! Jiang Wuchen charged over. Despite being covered in blood, he blocked Liangchen. In exchange, he was sent flying once more. Jiang Wuchen was no longer in his peak state. After being repeatedly injured so badly, his blood qi was no longer at full capacity. On the other hand, it seemed that Liangchen was still as strong as ever. Even sovereign sprouts can't stop him. It seems that Liangchen truly has the ability to suppress Zhao Ritian. When they heard that Liangchen had suppressed Zhao Ritian, they assumed that he had done so with the full power of the Dragonblood Legion. Now it seemed that he had no need for such a thing. Jiang Wuchen's defeat was already clear. In terms of power, he was at an absolute disadvantage. As for Feng Fei, she was injured after only one blow. On the other side of the battlefield, Ye Liangchen was still trapped by Linger. Was there anyone who could stop him now? Bastard, you're courting death! Jiang Wuchen roared. A berserk expression appeared on his face. Jiang Wuchen's chest suddenly began to glow. In that instant, the world flickered and an intense feeling of death swamped Liangchen's heart. You can't! Feng Fei turned grave and charged over at Jiang Wuchen. Bang! Suddenly, a hand slammed into Jiang Wuchen's chest. The light that was gathering there shattered. You've gone mad. If you activate your spirit bone now, you will no longer be qualified to become a sovereign. The one who had interfered was surprisingly Aotian. Aotian's movements were extremely bizarre. He was completely silent, like a phantom. No one had sensed him move. Aotian's actions caused Jiang Wuchen to cough up a mouthful of blood. His aura suddenly dropped. Feng Fei supported Jiang Wuchen. Examining his chest, she finally sighed with relief. Liangchen looked at Aotian. Are you joining in as well? I came to save you. We can stop here. Aotian frowned. Save me? Ha! Liangchen laughed. What a huge joke. The only one in this world that can save me is myself. From the star-field divine world, I can tell that your divine families are not interested in fighting against the tribulation of the Dark Era. You don't care about the lives of the Martial Heaven continent. You're so busy fighting each other that you aren't even aware of yourselves. You act like gods, like others owe you something. It's like the slightest offense against you deserves complete annihilation. Sorry, I don't care how strong you are, but I'm no longer associating with you. This bastard threatened me just now, so I'm going to kill him. You now have two options, either leave or take out your weapon. Liangchen, you are too arrogant, barked Aotian. Me arrogant? Am I as arrogant as you sovereign sprouts? Back in the immemorial path, you were so arrogant that you didn't give a damn about other people's lives. Others were undergoing tribulation, but you suddenly charged in. Others begged you to let them live, but what did you do? Other than disdainfully sneering at them, what else did you do? There's no need for more words. Are you getting out of the way or not? The more Liangchen talked, the angrier he became. The hatred toward the four of them from back then was now unleashed. Back then, Yu Shaoqian was undergoing her tribulation and almost died due to their tribulation. Liangchen had begged them to slow down and allow her to pass. After all, her tribulation was almost over, and she would need at most a few breaths of time. However, the four of them hadn't cared about either of them. Liangchen was powerless to interfere in Yu Shaoqian's tribulation, but fortunately she had managed to pass with her own power. At that time, Liangchen's hatred had started simmering toward the four of them, and upon entering the star-field divine world, Liangchen had given up any hope toward the Long family. The Long family had not given him any information about what was inside, and he refused to believe that they didn't know Zhao Ritian would be coming in. He refused to believe that they didn't know about the 10,000 dragon nest or the mother tree. Moreover, the sea demon race, Pill Valley, the corrupt path, and the divine families had colluded to bait him into the territory of the mother tree in order to kill him. He refused to believe that this was not prearranged. In Liangchen's view, the star-field divine world had been a trap. Although it wasn't necessarily set up by the Long family, they had known about it and not told him. This was a betrayal. Now that he was facing Aotian, his past and current enmity had combined. Hence, Liangchen was filled with killing intent. He would no longer be working together with the divine families. In the star-field divine world, he had sworn not to rely on others but himself. Liangchen pointed Evil Moon at Aotian's nose. Everyone was stunned. Liangchen was planning on challenging all 4 sovereign sprouts at once. Aotian stared at Liangchen. He slowly clenched his fists. I was thinking of helping you, but since you refuse to recognize kindness, don't blame me. Just as Aotian was about to make his move, rumbling filled the air. A horrifying pressure crashed down upon heaven and earth. Liangchen, release Ritian or I will slaughter your entire family. A furious roar rang out. The void rumbled and collapsed, revealing a black hand. As the hand pulled at the void, an old woman walked out, tearing through the void. It's a heaven-merging expert. Startled cries rang out. This person seemed even stronger than the previous heaven-merging experts. This exceedingly ancient-looking woman was covered in wrinkles, and there were countless spots on her skin. She was withered like firewood. It looked like a puff of wind could blow her away. However, her hands were black and sharp like bird claws. Her nails were very long and looked like they were made of metal. As soon as the old woman appeared, her figure shook and Liangchen felt a chill. He had been locked onto. Without thinking, Liangchen swung Evil Moon. His attack then landed firmly on a withered claw. As a result, Liangchen's body quivered, and the flesh on his arm almost tore itself off his bones. He flew back. Liangchen coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was shocked. This person knew true teleportation, so he was unable to grasp her location. He had relied entirely on his years of experience and sense of danger to instinctively block her attack. He had randomly guessed correctly. You have some skill. The old woman was somewhat surprised. Her figure once more vanished. Liangchen swung Evil Moon behind him, once more accurately blocking her attack. However, this time he coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood, tumbling away. The old woman snorted at being blocked twice. She was about to continue attacking when Liangchen suddenly took out something that made her expression change. Old bitch, do you want to continue? Why aren't you attacking? Liangchen was holding a golden foot-tall miniature human. It was Zhao Ritian. Zhao Ritian was covered in runes. This was a formation that Xia Chen had set up to prevent him from escaping. Seeing Liangchen covered in blood, the rest of the Dragon Blood Legion immediately charged over. They then stood behind Liangchen, facing the old woman. Just at this moment, Ye Liangchen finally escaped his restrictions. The sea of flames vanished and Linger also appeared behind Liangchen. Ye Liangchen was ashen. He had been trapped for a long time. Moreover, Linger's attacks were too difficult to deal with. Hundreds of different attacks had come at him with every blink of an eye, so he hadn't even had a chance to breathe. He had sensed Linger's power starting to drop and had been preparing to break free when Linger suddenly released him of her own accord. That was essentially announcing to everyone that he hadn't been able to do anything to Linger. He was actually defeated by a simple house pet of Liangchen's. Killing intent blazed in his eyes. However, after seeing the old woman, he didn't say anything. That was because this old woman was the current head of the Zhao family. The seniors of the divine families had not been intending on interfering this time. They were leaving things to the junior generation. Most likely, the Zhao family head had furiously charged over upon learning that Zhao Ritian had been captured. In her fury, she didn't care about status or seniority. Liangchen was now holding Zhao Ritian in front of her. A sneer appeared on his face. Come over and test me. I'll immediately crush Zhao Ritian. I've never spoken any empty threats in this lifetime. If you don't believe it, you are welcome to try it. The old woman was startled, infuriated, and aggrieved to see the listless Zhao Ritian. She shouted, Release him immediately. Do you think I'm an idiot? Why would I release him? Liangchen looked at her contemptuously. Although he didn't know her status, based on her care for Zhao Ritian, she was definitely one of his ancestors. The last 2 attacks had caused cracks to appear in Liangchen's bones. Most terrifying of all was that this woman was capable of reflecting a portion of Liangchen's power to further injure him. Liangchen wasn't afraid of anyone, but this old woman made him feel a sense of profound powerlessness. Her realm was far higher than his. Compared to the heaven-merging sea demons he had killed, the difference was like heaven and earth. Furthermore, her teleportation art came without the slightest warning. If it weren't for the sharp senses of the 9-star hegemon body art, he might not have been able to stop even the first attack. To fight against such a terrifying opponent head-on was definitely not wise. His arrogance had not reached the point of thinking that he was unrivaled beneath the heavens. If something happens to Zhao Ritian, I swear that you and your people will all suffer endless torment. Even death will become extremely luxurious for you. The old woman glared at Liangchen with rancor. Haha. Liangchen raised his head and laughed. That laughter was filled with fury. As expected, the divine families, from top to bottom, only knew how to threaten people. It was as if they truly felt that they were gods, and any defiance was blasphemy. Liangchen, release me and you can still live, shouted Zhao Ritian. Haha. Liangchen continued to laugh, however, his wild laughter suddenly became filled with killing intent. That sharp killing intent caused the world to change color. Not good. This is a premonition of... People looked up to see that the sky had turned gloomy. Faint drops of rain were starting to fall, and the sound of the rain was like crying. A mournful feeling appeared in the air. The heavens weep, Taoist heavenly feather muttered. Boom. Liangchen clenched his hand and Zhao Ritian exploded. In that instant, the world turned dark. Time seemed to stand still. Aotian, Ye Liangchen, Jiang Wuchen, and Feng Fei were all dumbfounded. Liangchen really had killed Zhao Ritian. Golden specks of light shot out like a firework. After one brilliant explosion, they faded away. Zhao Ritian's aura had vanished without a trace. He died, whether it was the people from Pill Valley, the Ancient Family Alliance, the Sea Demon Race, or the Corrupt Path, allied powers like the Martial Heaven Alliance, or neutral powers, they were all stunned. They had never imagined that Liangchen would kill one of the Divine Family's sovereign sprouts. They had assumed that Liangchen would use Zhao Ritian as a trump card to keep himself alive. He could then use him to blackmail the Divine Families, making them afraid of making a move on his people. At the very least, he could make the Divine Families swear a poisonous oath to no longer offend him. Then both sides could leave things behind peacefully. However, this trump card was now shattered in front of everyone. Rain poured down and a feeling of mourning filled the world. The heavens were weeping. Legend was that these people were the children of the heavens, the ones adored above all others. Their deaths would cause the heavens to weep. Such a thing previously only existed in legend, but now it appeared before them. Furthermore, they could clearly sense that the weeping of the heavens had started before Liangchen killed Zhao Ritian. It had started as soon as the old woman had threatened Liangchen. In other words, her words had set Zhao Ritian's death in stone. The heavens had realized what would happen and started weeping. The old woman simply stared in dumbfounded silence as the golden specks of light faded away. It was only after several breaths that she let out a mournful shriek. I'll make all of you pay with your lives. The old woman was so enraged that she went crazy. She had never dreamed that Liangchen would dare to kill Zhao Ritian. The Dragon Blood warriors summoned their manifestations. Even if they were facing a terrifying heaven-merging expert, they didn't feel the slightest fear. They knew that this battle might end with all of them wiped out. But on the day that they set foot into the cultivation world, they had accepted that death would come sooner or later. The Divine Family's arrogance had long since infuriated them. Moreover, Zhao Ritian had caused the deaths of over 10 Dragon Blood warriors and hundreds of thousands of the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples. By the same token, this old woman didn't care about right or wrong. She was simply trying to use her superior position to order them around. She had even used their lives to threaten Liangchen, and that was unacceptable to them. When Liangchen crushed Zhao Ritian, all the Dragon Blood warriors felt like shouting. This was their boss. Even if they had to die together, they wouldn't endure this kind of humiliation. Go all out against this bitch. It was unknown who shouted this amongst the Martial Heaven Alliance, but hundreds of thousands of their disciples also came to stand behind the Dragon Blood Legion. Not one of the Xian beasts retreated. Moreover, the Nangong family, the Beiteng family, the elusive Music Immortal Palace, and the Mo Gate all stood behind the Dragon Blood Legion. Even if they were facing a supreme expert of the divine families, these juniors did not retreat in fear. They would fight to the death with Liangchen. Of almost 1,000,000 disciples, not one retreated. This scene stunned everyone. Do you think numbers can make it impossible for me to punish you? Since you all want to die, you can die, shouted the old woman. Jianying, prepare the tablet, shouted the old man. Chu Jianying nodded and took out the martial heaven virtue tablet. But just at this moment, Taoist Heavenly Feather stepped forward lightly, suddenly vanishing from sight. Everyone let out startled cries upon seeing Taoist Heavenly Feather appear in front of the old woman, blocking her path. Han Jiqiu, don't meddle in other people's business, barked the old woman. Han Jiqiu. The Dragon Blood warriors were startled and looked at Ye Jiqiu. They had the same name? Ye Jiqiu was also startled. She had never heard the true name of Taoist Heavenly Feather. She had never told her. For the old woman to state her name meant that the two of them had to know each other. This startled everyone even more. It seemed that Taoist Heavenly Feather's status was even more mysterious than they had expected. No, this is not meddling. The Divine Ice Palace is a protector of the martial heaven continent. We have our own mission and responsibility to protect the continent's peace, and we will fight to the death for the continent. Although I don't want to be enemies with you, you are bullying the juniors and trying to slaughter the pillars of the future. Since that's the case, I can only fight to the death with you, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. Bullshit. Liangchen just killed a sovereign sprout, bringing forth the weeping of the heavens. There is no way to wipe away his sins. You call him a pillar? Who can compare to a sovereign sprout when it comes to being a future pillar? Liangchen despicably killed Zhao Ritian, and I want vengeance for my disciple. Scram, or I'll kill you with them, barked the old woman. Taoist Heavenly Feather. All things have karma. Although I don't know why Liangchen killed Zhao Ritian, I believe he had his reasons. If you have the patience, we can let Liangchen tell everyone about the karma involved. Then everyone will know who is right and who is wrong. If Liangchen truly is recklessly slaughtering heavenly geniuses, I, Taoist Heavenly Feather, will be the first to kill him. How is that? Everyone was sweating for Taoist Heavenly Feather. She was currently facing a terrifying existence, one capable of tearing through the void to move. They were afraid the old woman would harm her. However, it seemed from their words that the old woman was actually a bit restrained by Taoist Heavenly Feather. Who has that patience? All I know is that he killed Zhao Ritian, so he has to pay with his life. I don't care about the karma between them. I want them dead, all of them dead. Do you understand now? Get out of the way, shouted the old woman. At some point, her face and hands became covered in black spots that were like tiny eyes. It was like devils were staring out of her. Taoist Heavenly Feather shook her head and sighed. She extended a hand. Jiqiu, hand over your sword. Ye Jiqiu was holding her ice divine sword, and in a blink of an eye, it vanished and reappeared in Taoist Heavenly Feather's hand. The moment it happened, a streak of cold light swept through the air. This cold light was not aimed at the old woman. It swept behind Liangchen and the others, going far into the distance. A river of ice appeared wherever the light passed. Space was frozen. Laws were frozen. People felt as if that sword chi had frozen the void. As a result, a chilling wind filled the air. The cold was so intense that it could freeze their souls. Taoist Heavenly Feather hadn't summoned her manifestation nor accumulated any power. It was just a casual swing of her sword. From a distance, it looked like a crescent moon of ice had appeared in the void. Just as it was about to strike the ground, it suddenly stopped. That's... Suddenly, someone cried out. At the other end of the crescent moon was a crowned figure. People then looked over to the Sea Demon race's area to see that the crowned elder had disappeared at some point. After that, they realized that as the old woman was facing Taoist Heavenly Feather, the crowned elder had snuck over to kill Liangchen and the others. but now he was frozen by Taoist Heavenly Feather's attack. Boom! The giant crescent moon then shattered, fading away like ice fragments in the air along with the crowned elder. He was killed. Everyone stared in shock, and even Liangchen's heart was pounding wildly. That crowned elder had given him a sense of immense pressure. Even if he wasn't as terrifying as this old woman, he was also not an existence Liangchen could fight currently. Using his heaven-merging cultivation base, he had been trying to launch a sneak attack, only to be killed in one blow by Taoist Heavenly Feather. After a moment of shock, the Martial Heaven Alliance's side let out heaven-shaking cheering. A supreme expert had finally appeared to support the Martial Heaven continent. No one had expected that the always low-key and amiable Taoist Heavenly Feather was a supreme expert. With her support, they would no longer need to be so afraid of the divine families. The old man and Chu Jianying, who had summoned the Martial Heaven Virtue Tablet, were also surprised. Taoist Heavenly Feather had actually come out to support Liangchen, even killing the leader of the Sea Demon race. She stunned all of them. The Sea Demons were all horrified. That crowned elder was their demon emperor, but he had actually been killed in one blow. Not even his corpse remained. It's been so long since I fought. I'm not even able to control my power properly. I really have grown old, sighed Taoist Heavenly Feather. The old woman's expression sank, and she harshly clenched her teeth. Han Jiqiu, are you trying to become enemies with the divine families? Even if you can control a trace of the Northern Source Sword's power, you can't resist us. What? The Northern Source Sword? One of the Martial Heaven continent's 5 supreme divine items? Every expert trembled, staring in disbelief at the sword in Taoist Heavenly Feather's hand. Wasn't the supreme treasure of the Divine Ice Palace known as the Ice Divine Sword? How did it become the Northern Source Sword of the 5 supreme divine items? Far too many shocking things had occurred today, but not one of those things was as shocking as the appearance of the Northern Source Sword. Even Ye Liangchen was startled. She had had no idea that her sword was one of the 5 supreme divine items. I don't like being enemies with anyone, but if someone tries to bully the weak, I won't just stand to the side. Please don't use the divine families to intimidate me. I've lived countless years. If the divine families want to play, I don't mind accompanying you to death. Taoist Heavenly Feather's gentle and warm appearance began to change. An icy killing intent began to exude out of her. At this moment, she was surrounded by whirling ice chi that was cracking the space around her. It was as if the world was unable to contain her power. The current Taoist Heavenly Feather was like a completely different person. Even her words were no longer polite. Instead, they had become icy and domineering. You. The old woman was shocked. Even thousands of years of cultivation was unable to wipe away this part of me. If the divine families want to help me expel this darkness, I would be forever grateful, snorted Taoist Heavenly Feather. Domineering. Callous. Murderous. Even Taoist Heavenly Feather's aura was changing, shocking everyone. The Northern Source Sword has not been awakened. It is still unable to threaten the divine families. Just at this moment, a pair of hands reached out of the void and pulled it apart. An old man walked out. Grandpa! Ye Liangchen hastily bowed. The old man nodded to him but didn't say anything. He looked at Liangchen first and then Taoist Heavenly Feather. He sneered. Liangchen killed a sovereign sprout of the divine families, so he must pay with his life. There is nothing else to say. Fuck your bullshit. Zhao Ritian killed so many people in the star-field divine world, so us killing him is called retribution. There's nothing else to say. Cursed Guoran. The old man's expression immediately sank after he heard that, and he took out a giant bell. When Liangchen saw that bell, his heart pounded wildly. It looked a bit familiar. Why does it look so similar to the Eastern Wasteland bell? Even the patterns are the same. Only its aura is different. A majestic aura unfurled from the bell, and it rapidly grew larger. Images of the sun, moon, and stars appeared on top of it. After that, the sound of a bell resounded through heaven and earth, and its divine might wreaked havoc upon the world. At this moment, the laws of the heavenly Daos became visible, appearing as lines in the air. Those lines matched up to the sound of the bell. The Eastern Wasteland Bell? A startled cry rang out, shocking countless others. The images and lines on this giant bell were identical to the legendary Eastern Wasteland Bell. The Eastern Wasteland Bell was the leader of the 5 supreme divine items. It was said to be the Martial Heaven continent's strongest divine item, and it possessed the power to destroy the entire world. No, its aura is completely different. Liangchen was filled with questions as he looked at the bell. Back then, Liangchen had encountered the Eastern Wasteland Bell in the immemorial path. Although it was badly damaged and missing the majority of its body, its aura was filled with a sacred flavor, righteous and pure. Despite its body being broken down, that aura was not missing any pieces. On the other hand, this giant bell's aura was vast and majestic, but also sinister, tyrannical, and dark. It made others feel terror, not reverence. Just at this moment, the bronze fragment in Liangchen's primal chaos space shuddered, emitting a faint cry. Liangchen jumped, hastily suppressing it. He couldn't let it release any fluctuations that the elder would sense. Liangchen could vaguely tell that the Eastern Wasteland Bell was related to the entire continent's secrets. Unfortunately, the Eastern Wasteland Bell had vanished and not reappeared ever since back then. If this bronze fragment was exposed, that would probably lead to a calamity. It's just a counterfeit. Its aura is similar but wrong. If you think a fake can suppress me, then you truly are naive, said Taoist Heavenly Feather coldly. In her battle state, even her voice became cold, and her aura was growing stronger and stronger. Ever since she grasped the Northern Source Sword, she began to transform into an ice goddess of war. As her aura was unleashed, the ground began to freeze and shatter. Ice chi gradually spread, turning this area into a world of ice. Everyone had no choice but to retreat. Despite being so far away, the ice chi still made them feel terrified. They didn't dare to touch it. Big Sister Jiqiu, why didn't you tell us that your master was so powerful? If you had, we wouldn't have been shivering in fear, said Guoran. With such a powerful backer, he instantly began to grow arrogant. Even his words became relaxed, unlike before when he didn't dare to speak in front of a heaven-merging expert. Liangchen shook his head. Please remove the we from your statement. Gu Yang, please remove the we from your statement. Li Qi, please remove the we from your statement. Song Mingyuan, please remove the we from your statement. Yu Zifeng, please remove the we from your statement. Guoran. The tense atmosphere was instantly fractured. Under Liangchen's lead and the guy's disdainful gazes at Guoran, it was as if they were refusing to recognize him as one of them, causing Nangong Xiu, Beiting Rushuang, and the others to involuntarily chuckle. They also couldn't help feeling greater admiration for Liangchen. Even in front of terrifying heaven-merging experts, he could still joke around. Being able to do that in the face of death was not something many could do. However, Yijiqiu didn't smile. She said, "My master taught me through dictation and never displayed any techniques. I had no idea about her true realm. I was once in a bottleneck for 3 months with a certain technique, and I asked her to display it for me. But she said that her mood wasn't good, and that as soon as she used her ice chi, it would cause her temper to explode and very likely damage our relationship as master and disciple. That's why I have never seen her display even a single move." Everyone came to an understanding. No wonder Taoist Heavenly Feather had suddenly begun to transform from her previous amicable self. Even if it's a counterfeit, it was created with the source chi of the Eastern Wasteland Bell. Considering you haven't even gained the approval of the Northern Source Sword, it's enough to handle you, said Ye Liangchen's grandfather. He was also the current Yi family head. The Yi family and the Long family didn't get along. Meanwhile, the Jiang family was neutral, and the Zhao family had a good relationship with the Yi family. Hence, if the Zhao family was in trouble, the Yi family would naturally step forward. Be suppressed. The Yi family head slammed his hand on the giant bell, sending it smashing toward Taoist Heavenly Feather. That will depend on how much skill you have. Taoist Heavenly Feather coldly swung the Northern Source Sword. Boom. The divine items clashed together, unleashing an explosion of divine light. Endless fragments of space-time exploded, and ripples containing enough power to destroy worlds spread in every direction. Cracks in the void spread along with them. As a result, everyone turned pale and fled for their lives. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.